Naruto, Tsunade, Kakashi and Gaara after the fight with I Otsutsuki were sucked to another dimension with unexpected company to read the life of Naruto the Caterpillar. So without a further ado, let's start the story, and don't forget to find the star of the video. Let's start. Wonder Woman tried to keep her eyes open as Batman went on about something and everything. Normally, she'd be more attentive, but after a long day of dealing with the president and Cheetah, she just wanted to go home, have a bowl or 2 or 6 of ice cream and get a good night's rest. But crime never slept, and neither should the crime fighters, at least according to Batman, who had called all the League's founding members to the Watchtower at 11:30 in the night. She was sure what he was telling them could wait until the next day, but the man's sense of urgency wouldn't let him do the same. Hera, the backrest of her seat felt so soft and comfortable now. Even the air conditioning made her feel more tired. If it wasn't for the droll voice grating at all her ear, she was sure she'd have dozed off already. "Hey, Diana." The Flash whispered next to her. "If Batman sees you dozing off like that, he's going to ask you to take over the debriefing from him. You say it like he hasn't already noticed." Diana sighed. "Maybe, but it's best not to let him call you out on it. The man's not afraid to embarrass anyone." "Of course he isn't. But I didn't answer the summons just to listen to him talk about his suspicions. To be fair, he wouldn't call us all if he wasn't sure it was for a good reason." Flash slightly lifted his hands off the table. "Diana, Barry, please listen." Superman cut into their conversation. "This is important." Green Lantern rolled his eyes. "It doesn't look like anyone's going to ask, so I'm just going to say it. Do we really need to do this today? Now, to be precise, it's 8. Yes, Green Lantern, we need to do this today." Batman responded tonelessly. "Your presence here isn't all that important, so if you don't feel the need to be here, you're welcome to take your leave." Green Lantern glared at the man. It was no secret that the two didn't get along. Before he could come up with a retort, Superman quickly cut in. "What he means to say is that while this isn't exactly urgent, it's better we told you sooner than later." Aquaman sighed and got up. "I did not leave my duties on Atlantis to listen to trivial matters. Let me know when there is something important to discuss." Before Batman could respond, his communicator began to beep repeatedly. He brought out the device and looked at the screen. "What is it, Canary?" "Batman. If you're in the Watchtower, tell everyone to get out now." The heroine's uncharacteristic panic was enough to put the whole group on high alert. Batman sent out an alert for evacuation almost immediately. "What happened?" "Some kind of portal's been snatching everyone up. It just took Green Arrow and it's chasing me now. I don't know how long it'll take to find and get to you, but you need to lay." Batman scowled at the communicator as the line got cut off. It didn't take much to figure out that Black Canary had been caught up to as well. He looked at the remaining members of the League who were prepared to fight or flee. "We're going to mount justice now. Whatever it is that took the rest, we've got to find a way to stop it before it goes too far." It was only the Flash who barely managed to see the inky blackness that emerged from underneath the floor and consumed everyone before Batman could even finish his sentence. But before he could run away, his lower body disappeared into the blackness and he tipped into the portal. The last thing he was what looked like other people falling as well before his vision went dark. Uzumaki Naruto had learned early in life that there were situations in which all you could do was roll with whatever was happening and hope things turned out for the best. It was why, even though he didn't believe in fate, he still followed the predetermined path set for him by a prophecy he still didn't believe in and saved the world. It was also why he didn't fuss too much when he got swallowed up by a portal in River County on his way to Tsunade and appeared in what looked like a giant room that seemed to have no confines yet somehow felt restricted enough for him to know it was a room and not some outer area. Aside from the dark surroundings and dead silence, it was a nice place. There was breathable air, the temperature was nice, the seat he'd found himself on was comfortable, and there didn't seem to be any threat of attack. Save for the isolation, there wasn't anything to be concerned about. He was, however, very concerned when he saw a bunch of familiar faces get spat out. "Gaara, you're here too." He waved at the redhead, who gave him a worried look. Behind the man were Kakashi and Tsunade. "Naruto? Where are we?" Gaara asked. "Yeah, is this another one of your experiments with space-time?" Tsunade placed her hands on her hips angrily. Naruto shrugged. "Your guess is as good as mine. I was filling my water flask in River Country and next thing I know, I'm here. Tizuna's done with the plans for the aqueduct, by the way." Gaara smiled at him. "That's good news, Naruto. We can start the construction when we get back." He glanced at the distant space. "If we get back, what were you doing in River Country?" Tsunade asked him. "Didn't you say you were going on some pilgrimage to Demon Country?" "Demon Country? He told you where he was going?" Kakashi's eyes widened. Naruto sighed. "The truth would have come out anyways. I did go to Demon Country, but the path of the broken branch is determined by the current of the stream. Don't think sagely quotes are going to get you out of this, Naruto." Tsunade glared at him. You and I are going to have a long talk about the repercussions of lying to your superiors. We both know they don't really apply to me anymore. I saved the world. There's even a giant statue of me in Fang and Claw country. As long as you're an active member of the Corps, I'd say you still fall under the rules. I've been trying to resign for months now, but my letters keep getting misplaced. Naruto gave the woman a knowing look that she didn't look away from. I don't know what you mean, Naruto. They could simply be getting mistaken for trash and taken out. That's what happens when you don't improve on your handwriting. My handwriting is perfectly legible and you know it. I'm a sage now, Granny. I can't just stay in one place. I've got even more reasons to be out there than pervy sage. I think we best get back to trying to figure out where we are. Kakashi nodded. From what it looks like, we're in a pocket dimension. I've been in something like this before. It's most likely a room. Naruto commented as he looked around. Everyone looked at him, prompting him to shrug again. It doesn't have that limitless feel to it. You can tell there are walls, meaning it's limited. A pocket dimension would just stretch on and on. This might just be a very large room. If you knew what it was before, why didn't you just say so? Tsunade asked annoyedly. Because he doesn't know, Lady Tsunade. Gaara said. Our main concern now is how to get out of here. I would try the Kamui but, well, Kakashi trailed off. It was in times like these he wished he got to keep the Sharingan after the war. Don't talk about what you could do if you can't do it anymore. Tsunade scowled at him before turning to look at Naruto. Any ideas on how to get out? Maybe a technique or a seal? Nope. He shook his head. Even if I knew the Hiraishin, there are no active tags anywhere. What about that portal you've been working on? Kakashi asked. I still haven't been able to write coordinates into the index and I don't know the whole seal off head. So we're stranded. Tsunade sighed. For now, perhaps. Gaara said. It is safe to say that whatever took us did so for a purpose. It did not select us randomly, nor did it simply take everyone, otherwise it would be the whole world here. Naruto nodded. Gaara's right. The best we can do right now is wait to find out what we're here for and hope we're able to get back when it's over. It seems like we're not going to be the only ones here. Kakashi mused as he watched another group of strangely dressed people get spat out. He noted with a large amount of glee that a few of them were very attractive women. One of them, a man in what looked like a bat-themed suit of armor, noticed them and walked towards them with narrowed eyes. The ninjas tensed, prepared to fight if necessary. Who are you? He asked them. Kakashi blinked. The man sounded like he had a sore throat. And he spoke a language that he didn't understand. Apparently, it's not just your dressing that's strange. Kakashi said. The man frowned and turned to look at his group who had followed him. Can you identify what language they're speaking? It's similar to Japanese but I don't recognize the vocabulary. The ring isn't picking anything either. Another man in a green suit that Kakashi noted looked way cooler than Gaze said. Try to use sign language or get him to talk some more. If the ring can pick up a pattern, it'll help with the language. The bat-themed man nodded and turned back to him and spoke again, this time using sign language in tandem. Who are you all? Are you the ones who brought us here? Kakashi nodded inwardly. While some of the man's words were understandable but the language still largely resembled gibberish, the sign language got the message across. Luckily, he was skilled in sign language too. It's considered impolite to ask for one's name without giving yours first. He responded and smiled at the man through his mask. Batman, the rings picked something up. The man in green said. I'll send it to you now. Try using the language through the translator, maybe they'll get it. I'll share it with you all. The bat-themed man nodded and Kakashi's hand subtly inched towards his weapons pouch as the stranger suddenly reached into what looked like a belt concealed by his cape. His action didn't escape the notice of the remaining strangers who looked like they were ready to attack him as well. He watched as the man brought out small devices and passed them around before attaching one to his helmet. A few moments later, the man spoke again. Where are we? Kakashi blinked. He could understand him now. I can understand you now. Answer the question. Awfully demanding, aren't you? Kakashi gave him an unimpressed look. You don't know the half of it. Another blonde man clad in green muttered, getting a nudge in the side from another blonde female. Your guess is as good as mine. Kakashi finally answered as he glanced at the rest of the strangers who were watching him closely. He couldn't blame them. For all they knew, he and the others could have been the ones to bring them here. We're in a room. Naruto spoke out, getting everyone's attention. At least, I think we are. No shit, Sherlock. The man in the green suit said. Naruto noted with amazement how much power was packed into the glowing ring on his finger. Where exactly are we? Like what world? Hell if I know. We got here in the same manner as you. Naruto said. The man in green gave him a look that said he didn't believe him but didn't ask anything else. The man in armor didn't have such reservations. So you all just happened to be comfortable being in a place where you got forcefully transported to? That's quite convenient. Would you rather we all panicked? Tsunade entered the conversation. The man turned his gaze from Kakashi to her. Before he could respond, a man in blue tapped him on the shoulder. I'll take it from here, Batman. Superman said. We don't know who they are, Superman. Batman insisted. For all we know, they could be the ones to bring us here. They look like they know as much as we do, Batman. And they also look willing to help us out. They've been nothing but cordial with us and I'd like to keep it that way. Batman didn't respond but stepped away for Superman to approach them. Superman smiled at the blonde woman and brought his hand out for a shake while trying not to let his eyes go to her bust. Hello, my name is Superman. If it's not too much trouble, I'd like to know your names as well. Kakashi smiled at him. Kakashi. Tsunade nodded at him but didn't shake his hand. Tsunade. Gaara nodded as well. Gaara. Naruto smiled and shook his hand. Naruto. Hey, pardon me if this comes off as rude but why do you wear your underwear outside? Superman's smile froze on his face. Ugh, this again. Well, it's not exactly underwear. It's armor. Naruto nodded. Ah, nice. It's probably for the best if you wore it inside though, you know, give your enemies a nasty surprise when they go for your dick but end up hitting armor instead. I'll keep that in mind. Superman said. And these are Green Arrow. The blonde archer waved at him. Black Canary. The woman smirked. Naruto made sure not to stare at her for too long. With how close she was to the Arrow guy, they were probably dating. Batman. Only the ninja's trained eyes let them see the man's small nod. Green Lantern. The man gave them a small wave. The Flash. A man fully clad in red gave Naruto a peace sign that he returned. He was cool. Martian Manhunter. A bald green alien with red eyes simply stared at him. Your minds are well protected. There was an awkward silence as the three ninjas tried to process what he said. It was Tsunade who spoke. You tried to enter our minds. No wonder I felt someone prodding at my skull. It's a thing with his race. Superman hastily jumped to his defense. They all communicate telepathically, he's been doing it all his life and old habits die hard. I assure you he didn't do it out of malice. It's for the best that he doesn't try that again. Kakashi's smile wasn't as friendly as it had once been. We don't take kindly to invasions of privacy of that degree. And why is that? Batman asked. For the same reason you wouldn't want someone going around, seeing everything you know and watching all your memories. Gaara responded. I apologize. The man said. Naruto gave him a smile. To be honest, he almost hadn't noticed the man's attempts at entering his mind. Had they been anyone other than Konohanin who had been trained extensively to protect their minds from the likes of the Yamanaka and Gaara who had to steal his own to avoid getting forced into sleep, they'd probably be open books in front of the alien. Right? Superman tried to get back on track. And here's Wonder Woman. Oh wow. Naruto thought, feeling his face burn. He'd seen lots of attractive women in his life but this Wonder Woman really lived up to her name. A muscular frame that didn't interfere with her curvature, eyes more blue than his own, lush, raven hair that made him want to run his fingers through them just to know how they felt. The woman in question caught him staring and raised an eyebrow. Shit, he couldn't have her thinking he was just some idiot without self-control. Tsunade memorized their names which were clearly aliases. But it made sense, they were still strangers. Kakashi noticed his former student's predicament and coughed loudly. Hey, Naruto. Do you think there's a chance of more people getting brought here? Naruto turned away from her. Unless we're the only ones it meant to pick, no. We'll be seeing more people. You know what brought us here? Batman asked. It was a portal, I'm sure you saw it as well. Naruto said. The real question is why it brought us here. Do you know where it came from? No, but considering how it's been bringing us, it's not a naturally occurring anomaly. Naruto folded his arms. I mean, portals aren't natural anyways. Flash spoke. Naruto gave him an odd look. They're not? I've seen some occur before my very eyes at sites of previous battles. But then, it's often in places where battles involving the use of space-time techniques happened. That doesn't make them natural, Naruto. Portals are created with a destination in mind, Flash. If it's a seal. A seal? Like the animal? Naruto blinked. There's an animal named a seal. It's kind of obvious that we're from a different world, you two. Green Lantern rolled his eyes. Of course things would be different. Out of nowhere, a book dropped onto the floor, creating a noise loud enough to attract everyone's attention. Damn, I've heard gunshots quieter than that. Green Arrow muttered, rubbing his ear. Whoever made it appear obviously wanted to make sure we knew it was here. Black Canary said, rubbing his shoulder. They all approached the book but made no move to pick it up as they examined its appearance with their eyes. Caterpillar? Superman read the title. We got sent here to read about caterpillars? Someone must have skipped so many biology classes, it pissed off the universe. Flash joked. That wouldn't happen to be you, Batman, would it? The man didn't respond. How do we know there isn't a trap in the book? Kakashi rolled his eyes. Unless you've got a means of disabling everything without touching the book, someone's going to have to open it and find out. Naruto bent to pick the book just as Wonder Woman did. They both retracted for the other at the same time before Naruto picked the book. Shit, that was awkward. Sorry, I didn't think you'd want to take it as well. Wonder Woman smiled slightly. It's nice to see someone as brave as you are. It was less of bravery and more of confidence that there wasn't any trap the book could be rigged with that he couldn't tank, but he smiled back. Thanks, you're pretty gutsy yourself. The group watched tensely as Naruto cautiously opened the book before rapidly flipping through the pages. When he reached the back, he flipped it all the way to the front again before slamming it shut and holding it by the covers, then shaking it. I'd say it's safe. Naruto concluded. There might be a time delay on the explosives if there are any. Batman reasoned. On a book? Naruto snorted. Don't rule anything out. Sure. Naruto opened it again and picked out a note. This wasn't here before. What does it say? Tsunade asked. Naruto started. I've brought you all here to read about the caterpillar. We're really Green Arrow got cut off again by another nudge. I'm sure you're all aware of the existence of multiple dimensions, some of which are relatively similar to yours, save for the fact that some events have different outcomes. This is one of such events. Does it say anything about who brought us here? Flash asked, only for a note to fall on his head. He took it and read it. My identity does not concern you. Of course. Naruto resumed reading. You will all be returned to your separate dimensions when this is over. Don't worry, there's no passage of time both in here, and in your worlds. I understand that you are curious as to who I am. Dart? And? Batman asked impatiently. There's no and, Batman. That's all. Naruto chuckled and handed him the note after turning it to the other side. I believe the sooner we get started, the better for all of us. Gaara said. Let's get this over with so we can return to our respective lives. Everyone gathered and Naruto sat in the center. He flipped the book to the first page and began to read. Chapter 1, The Preserver. Superman's face soured. I'm guessing you know who this is? Kakashi asked the man. The Preserver goes around the universe collecting one of every rare and endangered species and race he can find. Be it a plant, animal or person. He locked me up in his ship for a while. Superman explained. Are humans rare or endangered where you're from? Naruto asked. I'm not human, I'm a Kryptonian. Superman said. The word didn't ring any bells for the trio. You look human to me, but I'm guessing it's an endangered race? Naruto said. Yeah, endangered. The man's sorrowful look discouraged Naruto from asking any more questions and he went back to reading. Hey. Monkey wants a nana? A very tall and buff, gray-skinned humanoid creature said mockingly while imitating a monkey. It was Lobo, one of the most infamous bounty hunters in the galaxy. Green Lantern burst into laughter. Lobo took you to the Preserver? That's rich. What do you mean? Tsunade asked. Lobo is the last of his kind. The Preserver won't let him leave the ship if he can help it. Green Lantern said, getting nods from the ninjas. I don't think he realizes his own situation. Gaara said quietly, getting a chuckle from everyone who heard. He'll find out soon enough. Green Arrow smirked. When I get out, I'm shoving that arrogant smirk right down your throat. A human man said angrily from behind a glass wall. He was imprisoned in a room with glass for walls. It was none other than Superman. A screen appeared to show everyone the scene. It beat the point of reading a book, but it only seemed to follow Naruto's words, so there was that. That doesn't look like a ship at all, Kakashi observed. Either technology had improved to the point where ships could be built that large and have such peculiar designs, or they were lying about it being a ship. He was going for the latter. What kind of ships had glass prisons? It's not a boat kind of ship, it's a spaceship. The Flash clarified, getting blank looks from the four ninjas. A vessel designed for the purpose of interstellar travel. You'll have to simplify it further for us, Flash. Tsunade said. It's used to travel through space. Flash said. Outer space, the blank area that exists outside your planet. Oh, we know that. Naruto snapped his fingers. Thank God. Out of curiosity, how advanced would you consider your world in the way of technology? Flash continued. You can discuss that later. Batman spoke before gesturing towards Naruto. Keep reading. Naruto rolled his eyes. It's not like it matters if we're fast or slow, there's no movement of time. He's not wrong, Naruto. Continue. Tsunade said. Naruto shrugged. However, unlike his name suggested, he was currently severely weakened due to the radiation of an artificial red sun shining in his cell. Red sun? Gaara asked confusedly. Why would the sun make you weak? Tsunade asked Superman. Not just any sun, a red sun. Superman clarified. There are different kinds of suns? Naruto asked excitedly. Yes, there are red suns, yellow suns, blue suns, white suns. Suns are just stars that planets orbit around. Green Lantern said. They've got different colors as a result of differing cores, radiations and the likes. As a result, they all have different effects on the body. That's quite the textbook explanation. Black Canary snickered. I'm guessing that's the ring's work? Hey, I know lots of things myself. Green Lantern frowned at her. It would be best if we let Naruto keep reading. Martian Manhunter spoke out for the first time since his introduction. Naruto made a mental note to meet Superman and Green Lantern after this was over before they left. He had to know everything. Yeah. You know, I believe that Lois Gale might be getting a tad lonely now that you're doing time in a cosmic petting zoo. Maybe I'll go back and cheer her up. Lobo said and rubbed his chin while laughing. I'll kill him if he tries. Superman clenched his fists as his eyes glowed red, getting the rest to look at him with a mix of curiosity and alarm. He's just baiting you, man. Chill out. Naruto pacified him. I'm sure he wouldn't be saying that if you weren't behind the glass. Naruto is right, Superman. Wonder Woman said. Besides, it's another universe. Nothing you do here will affect anything there. Superman nodded and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were back to their blue coloration. That's neat. Naruto muttered. In spite of his relative distance to the man, he'd still felt the heat radiating from his eyes. Unless the man somehow learned how to gather his body heat and release it through his eyes, it was probably a Kryptonian thing. But of course, I do have to collect the bounty on this geek first, he said as he pointed at the rat-like creature he had on a leash. Emperor Spudge got a bad temper on him. Then, turning towards the levitating yellow creature behind him, he made a salute with his hand at his forehead and said, Adios, Wrinkles. You want any more dorks snagged, you got my number. The one in question, the Preserver, replied. Quite ugly, isn't he? Kakashi chuckled. Actually, there is one other being I need for my collection. The last Zarnian. Green Lantern laughed. Called it. This Lobo is called a Zarnian? Naruto asked. No, his race were called Zarnians. He's the last of them, as you can tell. That's kind of sad. Naruto thought. To be the last of his own, what a lonely existence. Lobo laughed out loud. Haha. That's rich. I'm the last Zarnian. Then as if it was a big secret, he told Superman. I fragged the rest of the planet for my high school science project. I gave myself an A. Maybe not so sad. He destroyed his own world? Tsunade looked horrified as did the others who didn't know. Why would he do that? Nobody really knows. Superman said. It's Lobo, the only way you can really understand how chaotic he is if you meet him yourself. Which I hope you don't. Yeah, he got arrested and executed for it too. Green Lantern said. Come to think of it, how come he's still alive? His execution was made public. Naruto stayed silent as his mind went back to the second part of the prophecy. He didn't really believe in it, but was there a chance he could have done the same as Lobo? What had the man experienced on his world to push him to destroy it? He looked at Gaara, who placed his hand on his shoulder. The man didn't speak, but it was clear that he understood what was going on his mind. He gave him a half-hearted smile. Batman's eyes narrowed at the two. Had Naruto tried doing something similar before? The Preserver said no more. With a wave of his hand, a glass cage fell from the ceiling on top of Lobo. Before he had the time to react, extremely potent sleeping gas poured from the floor. Lobo tried to resist and punched the glass walls, but it was futile. He fell unconscious in a matter of seconds. That doesn't look survivable. Tsunade observed the cage. Unless there was air coming in through the top of the cage, Lobo was a dead man. Thanks for returning my uniform. Now how about my ship? Superman said after he finished changing from Kryptonian's traditional attire into his Superman costume. Not a chance. Green Arrow chuckled. Impossible. The Preserver said. For ages, I've preserved many rare creatures, even some from your adopted planet, Earth. Do you think those historical cases of missing people and alien appearances and abducted cows is because of the Preserver? Flash rubbed his chin. It's a possibility. Green Lantern admitted. The ninjas glanced at each other. Abducted cows? I'm not an animal to keep me stuck in a cage. Superman said, revolted. Normally, I don't take sentient beings. But you and Lobo are all that survived from your respective homeworlds. Same for this nine-tailed fox over here, named Kyubi, the Preserver said and pointed towards the glass cage next to that of Superman. Kyubi. The surprised cries from the ninjas caused the superheroes to jump. They stared at Naruto in worry. For the Kyubi to have been taken, it would have to have either been ripped out of him or taken after his death, neither of which they liked. They said only the Kyubi survived in our world. Tsunade said shakily. We're all dead. The world's destroyed. Naruto stared at the book, feeling numb all over. For Kurama to be the only survivor, he had most likely been the one to destroy the world then, meaning he had found a way to break free. Or he had been the one to release him. Had the prophecy been real? Did he really destroy the world in this dimension, even if indirectly? The superheroes stared at them, unsure of what to say. How did you comfort people who found out about their world being destroyed, especially when you couldn't relate? I don't really know what led to your world's end. Superman started slowly. But I understand what you're going through. I'm also the last of my kind, at least one of them. My world's been destroyed too. But if it's any consolation, this is another dimension, not the future. Your world meeting this fate doesn't necessarily mean yours will too. But I think that's why you were to read this. So you could gain something. What could we possibly gain from knowing that we're dead? Tsunade snarled at him. He means that we have an opportunity to look at our own selves. Gaara said. To look at what could lead to us meeting the same fate and trying to change it, make amends. Thankfully, there does not seem to be much need for that considering we are already trying to change. Naruto nodded but didn't say anything. He needed to meditate. Flash tapped Batman's shoulder. Hey Bats, what's a Kyuubi? A nine-tailed fox spirit from Japanese mythology. Batman said. In it, a small crimson-red fox cub was chewing on a chunk of meat several times larger than it while its 9 fluffy tails wagged lazily at its back. That's the Kyuubi? Wonder Woman asked. It's rather cute. Naruto snorted. If Kurama wasn't asleep, he was sure he would be roaring at being called cute. Flash asked. It looks harmless. Why were you all worried about it? It doesn't matter. Kakashi said. Let's get back to reading, shall we? Batman had a feeling that it did matter but didn't say anything. He'd try to find out later. These two have adjusted well to their new surroundings. I suggest you do the same. After the preserver floated away, Superman furrowed his brows as he witnessed Lobo getting gassed by the two robot girls attending to his needs when he tried to escape. Wonder Woman made a disgusted sound. The filthy lecher. You don't like him much, huh? Naruto chuckled. He tried to make advances at me the first time we met. They were as revolting as the word can get. Some people can be like that. Naruto's mind went back to one woman he'd met on his travels that he had to reject after she told him what she'd do to him. She was hot but sick in the head. A chuckle came from the cage where the small fox cub was imprisoned. First time getting locked up? Unexpectedly, it was the very deep voice of a male. Even more unexpected it was that it was speaking in English. You people know English? Why didn't you say it to us? Flash asked. Kakashi asked. Never mind. Superman looked at the talking fox dumbly, surprised not only at its speaking in English but also marveling at how the huge chunk of raw meat was disappearing at a mind-boggling speed into the tiny being's jaws. Naruto chuckled. Kurama had centuries of experience with eating meat. The unfortunate criminals he occasionally let the tailed beast attack could bear witness to that. After he was done eating, Kyuubi arched its back and stretched its small limbs. A cute yip escaped from his mouth as he yawned. Then, he jumped on the comfortable-looking circular bed and started to push against the mattress with his tiny paws not unlike a cat before he finally found the perfect place. After eating a chunk of meat 10 times larger than his entire body weight, nothing was better than a sweet afternoon nap. Wonder Woman smiled softly at the sight. Are you seriously content with staying locked up like this? Superman asked when he looked at the fox cub who seemed like he could not care less about their predicament. It's not like he has anywhere else to go. Naruto shrugged. When there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, you just find yourself taking whatever life gives you until you can think of something better. Amen to that. Green Arrow said. He spent his first few months on the island living the day before deciding he'd established himself enough to start dedicating resources to try getting back to civilization. Kyuubi opened his eyes lazily and said, and what would you have me do? The meat he brings is always laced with tranquilizing drugs. It saps all my strength. And he still eats it? Superman asked. The ninjas looked confused at that. Naruto, more than the rest. It wasn't like Kurama to willingly let himself get weakened. Superman had an incredulous look on his face. Why would you keep on eating it if you knew it was drugged? The fox cub let out another cute yawn before he said. How can I turn down free food? Relax. Everything is going according to the plan. He's got a plan? Green Lantern asked skeptically. What's that? Eat until he gets fully weakened and play possum in the hopes that the preserver tosses him out. I don't know, but I have a feeling we'll find out if we let Naruto read. Kakashi said. Without interrupting him. Right. Green Lantern looked sheepish. What do? Superman did not finish his question because, at that moment, a powerful tremor shook the entire spaceship. The preserver's ship so was gigantic, one had to measure its size using miles. For such an enormous ship to shake that badly, it spoke volumes about how powerful the attack that had impacted it must have been. Deafening alarms started to blare and numerous robots swarmed the corridors of the ship. Kyuubi's large ears flicked as they captured a particular sound. Wind style, vacuum wave. Wait, that voice, Kakashi said. Naruto. Tsunade looked ecstatic. You're alive. Yeah, I'm here aren't I? Naruto grinned at her. Not you, the former Kage slapped him on the back. The other you. Do you think there's a chance that the rest of us survived too? Gaara asked. Probably. Naruto said. If your world's gone but you two somehow survived, there's a chance you were involved in its destruction. Batman pointed out. That killed the mood. Gaara glared at the man. Not only that the giant metal doors of the room were cut in half but the whip-like wind technique continued to fly and sliced all the robots on the corridor clean, from the middle. It's a lot more powerful than I remember it to be. Kakashi noted. I've never seen Naruto do something like this before. Tsunade said. Neither have I. The last person I saw using a technique like this was Danzo. And while the man could cut clean through rock and walls, I doubt he could create one powerful enough to go through metal of that density and keep going. I'm just surprised the other me even said the name of the technique. Naruto said. I stopped doing that after the third Raikage called me out on it. I told you multiple times that it was stupid, Naruto. Kakashi sighed. HMPF. Show off. Kyuubi said snarkily. Why do you even keep on saying the names of your jutsu? It's not like you need to anymore. And what took you so long? I've been locked up for 2 days already. The newcomer's face was hidden behind an Anbu-style white fox mask, with red lines drawn on it, but Kyuubi did not need to see his face to know that he was grinning widely from one ear to another. Keeping the culture alive, huh? Kakashi smiled at Naruto who looked amused by the mask. Wonder how you got one though. His other self most likely joined the Anbu at one point in his life. Tsunade looked angry at the idea. The idea of Naruto joining the Black Ops branch of the military put a bitter taste in her mouth. What's the Anbu? Black Canary asked. It sounds like the military. It is. Kakashi nodded. I don't really see why you all look so against the idea then. Green Lantern said. I can tell you're all military, even Naruto. It's in how you carry yourselves. Well, the Anbu is more like the Black Ops part of the military. Naruto specified. Basically the guys who do the dirty work. Oh. Yeah. It was probably for the best that pervy sage neglected to tell Tsunade about the assassinations he had him carry out during the 3-year trip. They're not military. Batman thought. They carry themselves like fighters but they mask certain gestures and favor concealed weapons. They're assassins. So how long have you been serving? Green Lantern continued. Now that would be telling. Kakashi wagged his finger. They see me roll and they hate'n. For real, for real. Naruto smiled. Haters will hate. Potatoes will pot it. Flash joined in and the two burst into laughter. The others rolled their eyes. Maybe you should spend less time with B, don't you think? Kakashi sighed. No. Naruto said before pointing at Flash. Even if I did, I've got another bro here. Man, I'm going to be bummed when we leave. Flash's smile dampened. You seem like you'd be fun to hang out with. I'm already working on a portal. Naruto grinned. Give me your coordinates and if I get it down, you'll be seeing me sooner than you think. Holy shit, you're working on a portal? Flash looked amazed as did the rest. That could revolutionize transport. No more ships, no more risky flights, just pass through a hole in the fabric of space and time and voila, you've arrived at your destination. I know right. Let's get back to this, please. Batman sighed. Oh, right. Naruto flipped to the next page. Hearing Kyuubi starting to growl at him, the newcomer added. Come on. What's cooler than bursting in to save the day, saying the badass name of a cool technique and kicking everyone's ass? Ha ha ha, you're just jealous. Superman looked at the man and the fox arguing with each other in an alien language. He did not understand a word from what they were saying but apparently, the man was very talented in pissing off the little fox. However, as amusing as it was to watch the nine-tailed fox cub kicking up a fuss, there were other pressing matters at hand. He decided to interrupt them. That's rude, Superman. Naruto shook his head. Superman smiled awkwardly. Sorry. Hey, friend. Would you mind helping me get out of this cage? Naruto fiddled with the translating device installed at his belt for a moment before replying to Superman in a perfect English. Oh wow. What is a human doing all the way here? Lobo attacked me and lured me in the range of this ship and the Preserver captured us both. But I'm not a human, I'm a Kryptonian. Though Superman could not see his expression due to the mask he was wearing, he got the feeling that he was very surprised. It's pretty understandable. Green Arrow said. You're as likely to find kryptonite in your backyard as you are to find a Kryptonian in space. True, they all just comes to Earth. Green Lantern nodded. Kryptonite isn't all that uncommon though. It is, Lantern. Superman clarified. Like hell it's not. A purse snatcher I stopped in Metropolis last week had like 5 of them in his pocket. Maxwell Lord literally uses them as his chandelier. Lex Luthor has a new shard every week after you destroy the last one, and some sex trafficker had a kryptonite collar for when he finally met Supergirl. Dart. Wait, what was that last one again? Read, Naruto. But that's not important right now. Superman said quickly, please help me get out before the preserver comes with reinforcements. Naruto nodded and clenched his fist, about to punch the glass, when Kyuubi's annoyed voice came from behind. Hey, you asshole, free me up first. Naruto snorted. Come out yourself, you lazy pig. That's true. He can free himself just fine. Naruto frowned at the book. Give Kurama some love, damn it. He's a small fox that ate meat, probably drugged enough to kill an elephant. Green Arrow said. You'll see. He's just being lazy. Naruto insisted. Honestly, laziness was Kurama's main enemy. Kurama wouldn't tackle a problem that would eventually disappear if he waited long enough. A TSK came from the fox cub, who then proceeded to increase in size until he was no smaller than a horse. His previously fluffy and cute 9 tails were now much larger and apparently incredibly powerful, given that the reinforced glass that had been caging him until then was smashed effortlessly with a mere swipe of one of his tails. But Kyuubi did not linger in that large size for a second longer than necessary and immediately turned back to his original appearance, that of a tiny fox cub. None of the superheroes spoke. Even Superman was shocked quiet. He's struggled against that same glass and the harmless animal had destroyed it as if it were no more than soggy paper. Well, that happened. Black Canary chuckled awkwardly. I'd like to meet this Kyuubi one day. Wonder Woman said. Respectably powerful and aesthetically pleasing. A wonderful pet to have. He wouldn't take kindly to being called a pet, but with me and you will. Naruto smiled at her. Flash looked at him in mild surprise. He'd said something similar first day he met the woman too. You know where it is? Wonder Woman asked. Something like that, yes. Naruto nodded. A moment later, the glass imprisoning Superman was shattered with a punch from Naruto and Superman stepped out quickly, letting out a sigh of relief. Thank you. It was nothing, Naruto said dismissively before turning his back at Superman and going back to Kyuubi. He scooped the small fox in his arms and then put him on his shoulder. The fox then curled up into a ball of fluff and closed his eyes. It fell asleep. Strangely enough, no matter what kind of movements Naruto made, the little fox seemed like it was glued to his shoulder, not budging one bit even if Naruto were to bend down completely. That is odd. Superman said and turned to Naruto. Do you know how it's doing that? Yeah, it's a secret. Naruto smiled under his mask and gently patted the small fox on his shoulder. Sleep tight, Kurama. I'll take care of these annoyances, he said, and his hands began to form a series of hand seals when another group of robots appeared at the end of the corridor. This time around, a vortex of razor-sharp wind shot from his mouth and shredded to bits everything in its way. Aren't you worried about collateral damage? Superman asked him again. Those attacks might hit innocents. Innocents? Naruto blinked. It's a kidnapper's ship. Filled with captured animals and people. Superman argued. People who didn't have a choice to be there. It's the other me, man. Besides, I'm sure he found a way to free them already. Naruto said. If the other Naruto was like him, he'd have made clones to go around freeing as many as he could. Horizontal ellipsis. Don't forget your promise, Lobo. You said that you'll leave me and everyone else on Earth alone. The main man's word is his bond, man, Lobo said. Like him or hate him, that much is true. Superman said. Unlike his normally flippant and goofy attitude, the Zarnian appeared to be very serious. It seemed as though he truly lived by what he said, that he never went back on his words. Naruto whistled, impressed. He's a psychopath that murdered his entire race, but he does have his good points too, eh? He muttered to himself. Professionals have standards. Kakashi said. Especially since he's a mercenary. The word of your mouth has to be trustworthy if you want to get business. How would you know he's a mercenary? Green Lantern asked. He gave the preserver his number and asked the man to call him for more jobs. Kakashi raised his eyebrow. Were you not following? Not going back on one's word was something that Naruto could respect since he was exactly the same. A truly respectable trait. Wonder Woman agreed, smiling at Naruto. Lobo came to him and extended his hand for a handshake. I owe you one. I'll pay back this favor anytime you need it. And with that, he jumped on his space bike and left the dry dock of the spaceship. See you around, big guy, Naruto said and waved towards Superman as he turned around. You better not stick around. This ship will self-destruct any moment now. Superman felt his stomach drop. What? Speaking of the devil, just as he finished his words, a loud but clear robotic voice was heard through the entire ship of the Preserver. Initializing self-destructing sequence. Remaining time until the explosion of the ion engines and reactor, 5 minutes. As he was leaving, Naruto felt a heavy hand pat him on the shoulder. Superman's angry voice came from behind. Why did you do that? Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Do what? Superman was even more irritated at his reaction. All these creatures are now going to die. I could have saved them. I could have taken them to Earth. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Naruto frowned at the screen. It wasn't like him to just leave people to die without good reason, even if they were animals. I didn't know you were such a bleeding heart. They're just beasts, animals. Though it's unfortunate that they will die, it can't be helped. Would it have been better to leave this ship as it was and let it end in the wrong hands? Imagine if some space pirates took control over this ship after we left. They'd have enough firepower to raid an entire planet. In the end, leaving them behind is the lesser evil compared to risking the chances of the ship getting in the wrong HSNDS. Kakashi sighed. We could have figured something out. Superman retorted. Like what? Tsunade cut in. You don't have a ship. Naruto's ship probably can't contain dozens if not hundreds of thousands of occupants, and I highly doubt they can survive the conditions of space. Or would you run around aimlessly till you got lucky and found a way to stuff them all somewhere safe before the ship exploded? He could have tried commandeering the ship to somewhere safe and dropped all the occupants off before destroying it. Batman reasoned. I'm very sure the other me would have done that if he could. Naruto said. I'm not one for letting people die, but when none of your available options are good, it's best to just go for the least bad one. The other me would have saved them if he could, but he can't, and he's chosen to do the next best thing. That's good enough for me. It's sad that hundreds are going to die, but it's better than letting the wrong people get their hands on something that can be used to make thousands suffer. Nobody spoke after that, and Naruto took it as his cue to continue. Superman became silent. When he thought about things from that perspective, he understood Naruto's point. It was much better for some animals to die than for such a large and technologically advanced ship to end up in the hands of a villain. Superman sighed. You should get going. There are only 3 minutes left. Naruto said when he heard the robotic voices count down. Then, turning around, he sprinted towards his own spaceship. His shadow clones had already started the engines of the ship and opened the blast doors of the dry dock, so all he had to do was to just jump in and close the ship's door behind him. While he was pulling the door of his spaceship after him, Superman flew in with an urgent look on his face. You can fly. Naruto gave the man an amazed look. Yes, I can fly. Superman scratched the back of his head. I've always wanted to be able to fly. Naruto said. But you can fly. Kakashi pointed out. I want to be able to fly without looking like a flare. My ship was destroyed in the fight against the Preserver. I need your help to get out of here. Naruto did not waste any time and let him in. A moment later, the iron thrusters propelled the spaceship to several miles away. Even then, it was still too close to the Preserver's ship. Is that a boom tube? Superman said in surprise. What's a boom tube? Naruto asked. It's a wormhole to cut travel time short. Green Lantern said. An hour's journey can be cut to a few seconds with one. That's brilliant. Yeah, it is. Something similar to a very small wormhole was opened in the space, and Naruto's shadow clonist drove the ship right into it. Not exactly. It's nowhere near as precise as a boom tube, but I don't have a mother box. That stuff is very rare and hard to come by. This is more like a wormhole. But it's the latest warp technology from Almerac, so it's pretty good. It gets the job done. Isn't that where that queen that tried to fight you came from? Flash asked Superman, who sighed. Queen? Tsunade gave him a curious look. Her name was Maxima. Long story short, she challenged me to a fight in which I'd be able to marry her if I won. That sounds familiar. Kakashi looked at Naruto, who looked away. It's happened to you too? Superman asked the boy. I had less of a choice in it than you. But yeah, it happened. She was hot and she's a genuinely wonderful person, but I could do without the marry me if you win, die if you lose thing. Finally, someone who understood. Naruto was lying in his chair bonelessly, with an expression of defeat on his face. There's nothing about our home here either. Naruto frowned. I thought it was destroyed. Why am I still searching for it then? Perhaps you don't know it's gone. Gaara offered. Or the Preserver had simply assumed the Kyuubi was the last of its world because he wasn't able to find any other one like it. Kyuubi, who was awake now, headbutted Naruto gently with his snout and wrapped his 9 tails around his neck as to comfort him. The shadow of a smile appeared on his face, but it was not visible due to the fox mask covering it. Still, he brought his hand up to pet Kyuubi as a show of gratitude. They may love to argue with each other, but, for the past 90 years, they had always been together, protecting each other's back. They were inseparable, best friends for life. A long sigh came out of his chest. Naruto smiled softly. He could easily say he didn't have any friend as close to him as Kurama was, and even though the tail beast would never admit it, he felt the same. What are you looking for? Superman asked curiously when he came into the control room of the ship and saw the somber mood. It was Kyuubi that replied to him. A homeworld. That's why I even let myself get captured by that creep, for us to have a legitimate reason to raid his ship and access his database. So that was the plan. Green Lantern muttered. It was not the first time the Preserver had tried to capture Kyuubi. Over the past 90 years, he had tried to do that several times but to no success. However, this time around, Naruto and Kyuubi made a plan for Kyuubi to let himself get captured so Naruto would raid his ship for information. Hey, it's exactly like the plan with Hazuki Castle. Naruto gave Tsunade and Kakashi a humorless smile. Naruto, we've already apologized. Kakashi sighed again. You tried to apologize by buying me one bowl of ramen. I've forgiven you but I'm never forgetting that shit. The Preserver is rather infamous in the galaxy for his hobby, collecting all kinds of rare and endangered species to preserve, even going as far as to kill for it. So it makes sense that he has a great deal of information about the universe's geography as a whole. There was a chance that maybe he knew something about our home world since he was so adamant about capturing me all these years. Naruto scratched at his spiky blonde hair. This is hopeless, he said with a defeated voice. I've traveled through all the 3,600 sectors of the known universe in search for my home world. I've visited all the stellar and planetary systems with humanoid creatures in them and all the planets inhabited by human-like beings. I hate to say it, but if you've gone to all 3,600 and still haven't found anything about your world, it's either destroyed or it doesn't exist in that dimension. Green Lantern said. I've even gone to the Green Lantern Corps headquarters, OA, to ask for information. But nobody has ever heard anything about the elemental nations. This guy, the Preserver, was my last hope. Even with his legendary stubbornness, after almost 100 years of fruitlessly scouring the universe for a way back home, Naruto was at the end of his wits. Finally, he realized the futility of it all. He did not even have the energy to get angry anymore. I'm just tired. A poignant silence followed. Superman gave the blonde man a sympathetic look. While he hadn't gone searching around the universe, he had once possessed a single-minded determination to go to Krypton's remains and see if he could find any survivors even if it was unlikely. Naruto couldn't help feeling sorry for his other self. He didn't know what he'd do with himself if he got separated from everyone he knew permanently. It won't be the same with you, Naruto. Gaara assured. We're here, we still are. Yeah, thanks. He nodded. Thanks a lot. I'm sorry to hear that. I know how it feels to be the last of your kind. Superman said quietly. But you can't give up on living. Though some things were lost, you can gain others in the future. My parents and my homeworld perished, but I found a new family and new friends on Earth. Now, I have one purpose, to protect my adopted home. To protect it so the Earth won't die like Krypton. Naruto's appreciation for Superman went up a notch when he heard his words. He became silent in contemplation. You are more than welcome to join us. You wouldn't be the first nor the last alien to have found a home on Earth. Superman offered. Wonderful sales pitch. Naruto chuckled. But I doubt that's going to be enough to get me to go to Earth. The blonde couldn't suppress a snort. Your purpose and feelings are admirable, but of all the places in this galaxy, why would I choose Earth? Haha. Hey, what do you mean? What's so bad about my planet? Naruto's fingers danced on the keyboard of the supercomputer of the control room and, after a few moments, a datasheet appeared on the large screen. As I said, during the plus 90 years that I've traveled the universe, I visited all the planets with human-like beings. I've visited the Earth too, about 60 years ago. What's wrong with your planet? I don't know about the current situation, but when I went there was a freaking world war. Your technology was one of the most backwater I've ever seen at a sentient species in the entire universe, and it went the same for the general population's mentality too. Dictatorships focused on suppressing the population, genocides, racism, and like half of the population was struggling to find something to eat from one week to another. And that's just data that I collected in a matter of days. Why would anyone willingly come to such a place? Naruto whistled. Man, your world's messed up. The superheroes shifted awkwardly. They were familiar with Earth's problems, but it didn't mean they liked getting it rubbed in their faces. We're a work in progress. Green Arrow said finally. Superman dressed his voice awkwardly. There were, indeed, many issues in the past. Some of them still exist, I will not lie, but we have come a long way since then. Your information is quite outdated. Our technology exploded over the past few decades to the point where we are able to travel in space. Racism has been abolished in most parts of the world and there are very few dictatorships left. We have a saying on Earth, don't diss it till you try it. Maybe it won't be as bad as you think it is. When people say it like that, it usually means the world's still fucked. Just not as much as it used to be. Naruto shook his head. It looks like I've got a good thing going in space. I'm not going to stop and go to Earth then end up dealing with the stuff that goes on there. He looked at the superheroes. I don't mean offense by that. It's fine. Flash said. We're working to change things for the better. That's nice. That's very nice. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, not very interested. Well, I'll have to take you to Earth anyway, so we'll see then. Naruto started typing again on the keyboard and an extremely large and detailed interstellar map appeared on the large screen. It was a map of the Milky Way galaxy. After typing Earth in a search bar, the map was zoomed in greatly, to the point where the map of the solar system became clear. Then, he took the coordinates of the solar system and proceeded to start activating a new wormhole. Unlike boom tubes that were so precise that they could open anywhere regardless, the warp system of Almarak's spaceships could only narrow it down to planetary systems. I need to tell the Guardians to try getting closer with Almarak. Green Lantern stared at the screen. Out of curiosity, can you open a wormhole to Rao system? Krypton's home world? Naruto turned his eyes from the control panel and looked at Superman's face searchingly. He made a humming noise as he thought. I do have enough fuel to go to Krypton and then to Earth, but I won't have enough to leave the Earth after that. You can refuel on Earth, on our watchtower. Superman said. As I told you, we are capable of space travel nowadays. Me flying all the way here from Earth is proof of that. You guys can really travel to outer space on your own? Naruto asked. Well, yeah, Superman just said he did it. Green Lantern responded. But he's not human. It could be a Kryptonian vehicle or something like that. We can, Naruto. Green Arrow said. I haven't gone out myself, but most of us have. Nice, nice. You know, the last time I did, it was to fight a genocidal alien. Considering the stuff we've done too, I actually believe you. Black Canary said. She'd seen more absurd stuff than that. There was no reason for Naruto to actually listen to Superman's wishes. After all, he had already helped him more than enough by freeing him from the preserver's cage and also giving him a ride back home. But, for some reason, he felt a peculiar feeling of kinship with him. Nagato really knew what he was talking about. Naruto nodded. He really did. The older Naruto got, the more he agreed with Uzumaki Nagato's beliefs, that people truly empathized and understood each other only after they felt the same pain. It was the same in this case. Although he had nothing to gain from it, Naruto decided to do Superman this favor because he felt that they were the same, the last of their kind. Turning his attention back to the control panel of the ship, the interstellar map zoomed out and then he wrote Krypton in the search bar. Then, the map of the Rao system appeared on the screen. After typing in a few more commands, the space started to crack and a wormhole appeared a short distance in front of the ship. Destination, Rao system, Krypton. After the last sentence, the screen disappeared. That's the end. What's on Krypton anyways? Naruto asked Superman. I thought everyone was dead. Superman rubbed his chin. Well, I found my cousin there. She's doing quite well now too. I wish I could meet her. Naruto said, getting a suspicious look from the Kryptonian. Do you all look the same? No, we look different. In fact, you wouldn't believe we were related at all if you saw her. After a moment's silence, Naruto gave the man the book. You're reading the next chapter. I've got to talk with Flash and the Lantern Guy. And Wonder Woman too? Kakashi joined in and asked quietly. Naruto gave him a mortified look. I saw how you looked at her. I'm happy, really. You're actually interested in females, they just happen to be older women. You're a man of culture. Superman didn't say anything. He had no idea how much older she was. I've always been interested in females, damn it. I've just had more things to do than go dating everyone I saw. He moved away from the arguing duo to Wonder Woman who was staring at the blonde. Something wrong, Diana? No, I'm just waiting to talk with Naruto. She said. Oh, okay then. He walked away. Maybe he'd give them a bit of time to talk before moving on to the second chapter. Kakashi brought out his orange book and began to reread the work pages as everyone got up to talk with each other. Well, almost everyone. The blonde couple remained joined at the hip and just talked with each other while Gaara and the green man sat in silence. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Wonder Woman approach Naruto and chuckled. At least that saved Naruto the stress of figuring out how to get closer to her. He still couldn't believe the boy liked older women. Poor Hinata, she never stood a chance. Not talking with anyone. Kakashi looked up to see the armored man standing next to him. He had heard the man approaching but hoped he was going to just pass him by. Apparently not. Ah, Batman. He greeted the man. You're talking with me now, aren't you? I have a few questions for you. Batman said. I don't know what's under my mask. Lady Tsunade's bust size is 106 centimeters. The dark circles under Gaara's eyes aren't makeup, they're eye bags, and no, Naruto's whisker marks aren't whiskers, they're just marks. Kakashi smiled widely. Batman didn't acknowledge the ninja's words save for narrowing his eyes. Where were you all when the portal took you? I wouldn't know. Kakashi shrugged. And if it's the portal you're worried about, you're better off asking Naruto. He's the space-time enthusiast among us. Do you think he could have anything to do with it? Maybe an experiment gone wrong? Batman pressed. I wouldn't know that either. Kakashi shrugged again. And like I said the first time, you're better off asking Naruto. He's occupied. Kakashi looked at his former student who was making wild gestures at Wonder Woman. He wasn't sure what the boy was talking about, but it seemed to amuse the woman a lot. Good for him. Then it's best you wait for him to finish. Kakashi said. He was out in the wilds when all this happened. I thought you didn't know where anyone else was. Batman's eyes narrowed. He said he was in a forest when he arrived here. Kakashi flipped to another page. Awfully convenient. Life doesn't always have to be hard, Batman. What about you? Kakashi blinked. Where were you? What were you doing? What I'm doing now. Kakashi raised his book up. I can tell you're not really here to ask about the portal. What are you really here for? Batman, seeing that he'd been found out, switched topics. You lied about being in the military. Why? I am in the military. I'd give you my identification number, but I doubt it'd be meaningful to you. Kakashi said. Batman ignored that. You're ninjas, aren't you? What makes you think that? Kakashi frowned. You're ninjas. All of you. I didn't get to look at your pouch as well, but I can recognize the outline of a kune's ring on the flap. Batman said. Kune are a farmer's tool. Kakashi retorted. If you know your tools well, you'd know that. Kune with ringed ribs were made with the purpose of tying smoke bombs to them and so they'd be able to stab into whatever surface they got thrown at. Farmers did that so they could tie ropes around the ring to pull out root crops easier. Kakashi flipped to the next page. Are you by any chance looking to become a farmer? I'd ask Naruto for advice instead. He's not one, but he gardens a lot. Batman, seeing that he'd get no admission from the silver-haired man, went silent. Why exactly are you adamant on knowing what we are? It's not going to help you even if you did. Kakashi asked the man. It's better to know what we're up against, just in case. Batman replied bluntly. Oh, you don't trust us? Kakashi asked innocently. Trust isn't a luxury I can afford. You've probably been waiting weeks to say that line, haven't you? He chuckled. I like that. I think I'll stitch it onto a shirt when I get home. You're avoiding the conversation. If we were going to attack you, we'd have done it the moment you all dropped here. Kakashi deadpanned. And what would we gain from killing you? Your clothes? Or you could just be waiting for all this to be over so you can catch us off guard. You all have your guards down now, don't you? Now would be as good a time as any to signal the rest to start the attack that we planned against a group that we've never known before and didn't expect to come here, even though that group's been with us since the moment they arrived and we haven't spoken to each other since then. I can't say I don't trust you not to have figured out a way to communicate without words. Batman continued undeterred. And you shielded your minds from Manhunter. Kakashi knew something was wrong when the other group members would occasionally become distant during the course of Naruto's reading. They were all probably telepathically linked via the Green One and were sharing their suspicions. This Batman fellow could have been the one they elected to voice them out. And what, let him just enter all our minds to establish trust? He snorted. It's better than remaining suspicious to the rest of us for the remainder of the time here. And we might be here a while. For a while, not forever. Your mistake is assuming that your opinion has any importance to us. And it means even less since we won't be seeing each other again after this. Kakashi closed his book with a sigh and stared at the superhero. Now that it didn't seem like there would be any fighting, he didn't bother hiding his scrutinizing gaze. After a while, he spoke again. But then again, I doubt you're doing any of this because you're concerned for your people's well-being. I think you're really doing it because you can't handle not knowing about us. We're unknowns, and you don't like it. The most rational fear is the fear of the unknown. In your case, there is no fear, Batman. It doesn't mean I can't be cautious of you. Being cautious is a good thing, Batman. It keeps people alive. What you're doing now, isn't. And what am I doing? Kakashi rolled his eyes. Acting on baseless paranoia and assuming you're entitled to answers simply because you don't know us. We don't know you either and you haven't seen any of us interrogating your own. It's not that we can't or that we aren't curious or cautious, it's that we sincerely don't care what kind of people you are so long as you don't take up arms against us. And I can tell most of your own are the same, so it leaves only you. You're probably used to finding out about the things you want to know, but real life wouldn't be real life if you always got your way. You can't always be one step ahead, Batman. The sooner you accept that, the better your life's going to be. And don't take this the wrong way, but if you keep up like this, you'll only end up making enemies of people who could have been valuable allies. Like you. We're not seeing any of you after this place, so no. Kakashi smiled. I've got to say, you even made me give a speech. I haven't said this much at once since my promotion. Don't worry, we're not attacking any of you. We don't know that. You don't know that. Kakashi corrected. This conversation has been as bland as I thought it'd be, so I'd like to focus on my book now. If the desire to gather an important information still hasn't left you, feel free to ask, anyone who's not me. Batman frowned at the giggling man who looked to have forgotten about him entirely. It was clear any further attempts would bring about the same outcome or cause the man and possibly the others to become hostile against him. He turned to look at the blonde woman who was currently in a conversation with Superman and decided he'd approach her later. His eyes went to the redhead who sat quietly and he neared the boy. I'm not speaking with you, Batman. Gaara cut him off. Batman frowned. I just leave. His frown deepened when he felt something wrap itself around his ankle and tighten hard enough to slightly crush the armor. He looked down at what it was. Sand. He looked back up at the boy who fixed him with an unblinking stare and got the message. He nodded and the sand flowed away from his leg before disappearing into something he couldn't see. He can manipulate sand, possibly earth in general. The sand reeked of stale blood. Naruto can use wind, possibly as was shown in the book. Most likely with lethal intent. I don't know about the others but the most likely the same. He thought as he walked away. What kind of people are these? He couldn't act like they weren't a threat, they very much were. Why couldn't the others see this? These people weren't half as nice as they made themselves look. He glanced at Naruto who leaned on the wall as he listened to Wonder Woman talk and tried to ignore the unpleasant feeling in his gut. They'd slip up eventually and show their true colors. It was just a matter of waiting. And he was a very patient man. So you're from an island of warrior women. Indeed. Did all the men leave or something? We don't allow men on the island. Strange, but it's not new. There's a place in my world called the Nadeshiko village. They don't exactly have a no-men policy, but they don't allow any man that enters to leave unless he fights. So all he has to do is fight? Wonder Woman asked. Well, not just that. If he wins, he'll have to marry the woman who challenged him and can only leave after getting her pregnant. Wonder Woman snorted at that. That would go horribly on Themyscira. The only men who knew the island existed before Steve were gods and they'd be ecstatic to know that they could bed all the Amazons they wanted so long as they defeated them first. And if he loses? She'll kill him. It's a fight to the death. He's also free to go if he kills her. But if he spares her, that's when the marriage and impregnation option comes in. And you encountered one of those women? That one that was searching for you? Wonder Woman gave him a curious look. Yeah. Her name was Shizuka. She was a pretty nice person. Naruto smiled wistfully at the memory of the green-eyed girl. He'd have to see how she was doing one of these days. She tried to kill you. She was just following customs. And we came to an understanding afterwards. You bedded and impregnated her? Wonder Woman asked, causing Naruto to sputter. I knew it. I did not. There was another guy she still liked even though he was dead, so even though she lost, it was obvious she didn't want some random guy knocking her up. Naruto defended himself. Considering she sought you out to challenge, I doubt she considered you a random guy. Wonder Woman said. Shizuka hadn't even known who he was at the time. All she knew was that she had to challenge Jiraiya's student and it just happened to be him. For all the good it did her. She gained nothing from the fight other than a bruised ego and the motivation to change her village. Hopefully, she succeeded. I'm surprised you didn't try. Was she not up to your standards? Wonder Woman asked. Oh, she was, but if I did, I'd have to marry her. He hated not to do it, but it was better to abstain than get roped into a situation you weren't ready for just because you wanted to get laid. Diana smirked. Do you have any other tales like this one to share? Oh, he's got more. Kakashi cut in, idly reading from an orange book. There's Shion, Amaru, Haruna, Koyuki. Shut up. Shut up. Naruto pushed the man away. He couldn't have Wonder Woman thinking he was some sort of guy who slept around. You know quite a lot of women, don't you? The woman in question asked. Naruto was a good person from what she could tell and she didn't plan on judging him for his vices so long as they weren't depraved or harmful. Let's get back to your island. Naruto dodged the question. So you've got nothing but women? How'd you manage to keep it a woman-only place especially if you still have children? Wonder Woman snorted at the obvious diversion but answered nonetheless. I haven't really asked about it myself. It's been like that centuries before me and since I was little. She had never really put much thought into why they only had women on Themyscira. She had never even seen a real man until Steve crashed on the island. You should, Wonder Woman. Naruto said. There's no harm in asking questions about things that seem unusual. Even the ones that are usual should still be questioned if you don't understand them. Perhaps I'll ask my mother the next time I go back. Wonder Woman rubbed her chin. I don't think I should keep you any longer. You wanted to speak with the Flash and Green Lantern, didn't you? Naruto waved her off. They're not going anywhere. Besides, you're good company. I don't meet people who like to talk like you do. I imagined I'd be boring for someone your age. Wonder Woman raised an eyebrow. I've dealt with teenagers before and our topics of interest rarely ever align. Well, I've always been different. I never fit in with the rest. Naruto scratched the back of his head. He fit in even less after the war. Most people he used to know were either nauseatingly respectful to him or purposely rude in an attempt to remind him that he was still one of them or reassure themselves that he wasn't as high up as he was said to be. He'd attended the birthday party of one of his former classmates as a guest of honor, and the man decided a good way of reminiscing about the past was to tell all the guests about him being the dead last that everyone was allowed to bully. If he wasn't sure doing so would take the idiot's head clean off, he'd have punched him in the face. He, however, found his details and using the connections he had, increased the taxation on his business and properties as well as the bills for his amenities. The man went broke in a few months. I find that hard to believe. Wonder Woman snorted. I haven't known you for a while, but you seem like a social person to me. Oh, I am. Very much so. I don't want to sound egotistical, but I'm the life of the party. But finding a person fun doesn't mean you're friends. That's understandable. Gaara approached the two and tapped Naruto on the shoulder. My apologies for interrupting you two, but I need to talk with Naruto. It's all right, I'm still here. Wonder Woman shrugged. We'll continue this later? Naruto asked the woman as he walked away. Of course. She smiled at him. You work fast. Gaara remarked when they were out of earshot. Naruto blinked. What? You never talk that much with people you don't take a shine to. You like her. She's nice, yeah. A good conversationalist too. If you can get past how she sounds a lot older than she looks sometimes. Naruto nodded. I think you see her in a romantic light. Gaara gave him a small smile. Gaara, you're my age. At least talk that way, and no, I'm not planning to date her. We just met. I don't think it's a good idea. Naruto frowned. Why not? If I was planning to date her, that is. Because it's highly unlikely that you two will ever meet after this, Naruto. I know that, Gaara. Naruto sighed. But she's special. I don't know why, but I've been drawn to her since she arrived here. It's strange, but I can't help it. I can't say I understand what you're talking about, Naruto, but I'm just concerned about you. It wouldn't do if you start something that'll end on a short notice. Gaara patted him on the shoulder. Batman tried to interrogate Headache. Why? Naruto asked. It's not like anything he finds out is going to be of any use to him. He's paranoid, nothing more. I wouldn't put it past him to try using underhanded methods like agitating you into giving away what you wouldn't, so be careful. Thanks, Gaara. Naruto nodded. Before I forget, I got the plan for the aqueduct from Tsunade before going to River County. Did you get the scaling right? It's going to be going from River County to Tsunade. I still say you should have tested the waters in River Country first. I heard many of the rivers are infested with parasitic worms. We don't really have many options, Naruto. We can't keep purchasing water from other countries, we're still rebuilding our economy. Gaara sighed. I told you I could help you get permission from Kouki to let it run all the way down to Spring Country. But the costs of building it would be too high. I also told you to let me handle that. Nobody has to know it's not an officially funded project. We're still keeping mute on the fact that you're building an aqueduct. Naruto. Superman joined in the conversation. I think it's best we start reading now. Oh, alright, but why are you telling me? I'm not the one reading. I just wanted to let you two know. The rest are seated again. Besides, we're reading about you. It feels a lot more uncomfortable now that I remember that. Naruto muttered. Alternate self or not, it didn't change the fact that it was still him and everyone got to know his thoughts. Superman shrugged sympathetically and went to get seated, leaving the two friends alone again. Well, back to it. Naruto said. Indeed. Horizontal ellipsis. Hey, Naruto. We still haven't gotten to really talk about the portal. Hope you haven't forgotten. Flash greeted the boy as he sat behind him. Hell no. Naruto shook his head. I just got a little sidetracked. Yeah, you and Wonder Woman were very sidetracked. The Crimson Speedster gave Naruto a teasing smile. Should I get her to come sit next to you? That'd be nice. It's cool. Naruto refused. Besides, we get to talk as Superman reads without interrupting the man. Yeah. This would be better if Arrow were here too. He's really cool too. If he detaches himself from Canary before the books read to the end, I'll find out. Naruto glanced at the two lovers. But then, I can't really blame him for not doing so. I'd keep my eyes away if I were you. He tends to go psycho for her sometimes. He catches you staring, that's an instant wrong foot. I think I can get away with admiring a hot person, Flash. Besides, I'd be bummed too if someone tried snatching my partner. Naruto defended. That's not cool. Not one bit. True that. Flash nodded. And you don't have much ground on which to complain about me staring. I saw you staring at Granny's boobs. Naruto accused the man. I have the same as you, Naruto. Nobody's boobs should grow that big. Besides, I'm married. Happily at that. Flash sputtered. Why do you call her Granny anyways? She doesn't look a day over 30. Naruto winced as a bottle cork hit him on the head. Apparently, Tsunade had heard everything they were saying. Shit. Dart. Hey, Superman's starting. Flash hastily looked up as the screen appeared again just as Superman opened the book. Horizontal ellipsis. Chapter 2 Argo. Superman paused. What's an Argo? Naruto asked. Superman's voice was heavy. It was one of the 3 principal city-states on Krypton. The last time I went to the planet to search for survivors, Argo was the only place still standing, albeit barely. Oh, Naruto frowned, unsure of what to say. He suddenly felt a bit guilty for never going back to Uzashigakure. Sure, he wasn't likely to find anything other than ruins and maybe a few human remains, but it's the thought that counts. It's also where I found my cousin, Supergirl, so it's not all that bad. Superman continued, smiling slightly. She'd have loved to be here. She's the adventurous one out of the 2 of us, always wanting to meet new people, see new places. Your cousin destroyed $50,000 worth of equipment. Batman spoke out. For God's sake, Batman. Superman groaned. I told you I'll pay you back. With a reporter's salary? Batman scoffed quietly, although Superman heard it clearly. Yes, with a reporter's salary. The Kryptonian huffed. Hey, I don't know what you 2 are talking about, but if you miss her that much, don't worry. You might see her here if the portal's still running wild in your world. Naruto gave him a thumbs up, only realizing how bad that sounded after saying it. All the superheroes looked worried at the thought. What if the portal was still running amok? If it took all the heroes, it'd be the anarchy all over the world. Kakashi coughed awkwardly. What a depressing way to start the story. Through the thick windows of the spaceship's cockpit, an enormous red star could be seen. It was Rao, a red supergiant. All the ninjas looked amazed. Wow. Naruto whispered. That's what a star looks like up close? Most are smaller though. Supergiants are the largest class of stars. Green Lantern, getting Naruto to look at him. But save for the differing colors and surface patterns caused by different wavelengths, velocities and amplitudes of radiation, they pretty much like that. I don't understand half of what you just said, but you're going to explain it to me after this. Naruto said excitedly. He'd have to talk with Kurama about going back out to space. He had to see everything. If you think that's amazing, wait till you see galaxies, black holes, white holes, nebulas, star clusters and supernovas. Green Lantern smirked at the boy. He wasn't sure if a lantern ring would consider him worthy, but his desire to learn and explore alone would get him an instant approval from the Guardians to join the research groups. Supergiants were the largest type of stars that could be found in the universe. Just as you said. Tsunade told Green Lantern, who nodded. Well, yeah. All the knowledge in the universe in this head. The man bragged. I knew it was all the ring's work. Black Canary snickered. I said in this head, not the ring. The man frowned at her. Let's not start this again. Green Arrow stopped them both from starting the same back and forth they always had. The one saving grace for the planets orbiting it was that red stars were not as hot as yellow stars, let alone blue stars. I don't think there's any planet with a blue sun, is there? Superman rubbed his chin. Is there, Lantern? There's a few, but the further away from the sun than Pluto is from yours. It doesn't help much though, they're still hotter than Venus. That sounds scorching. Green Arrow grimaced. He wasn't a big fan of hot places. The only reason he even went to beaches at all was because he got to see Dinah in a bikini and she sometimes fucked him in the changing rooms when she was feeling bold. You have no idea. Green Lantern shook his head. I had to retrieve a core from one of those planets and nearly died doing so. I literally caught fire the moment I entered the atmosphere. Nasty way to go. Naruto nodded in agreement. The memories of his clones who'd met fiery ends gave him a good feel of the experience. Come to think of it, he had many memories of dying in painful, often messy ways. Maybe he should start using clones less. Nevertheless, the intelligent life forms in the Rao system had still perished in the end. Superman sighed dejectedly. Martian Manhunter looked pained too as his mind went back to his own world. As the Elmeration spaceship flew towards the area that Krypton used to orbit, they saw a very large number of asteroids glowing with a dark green light littering the space. Chunks of matter starting from sizes of several hundred feet to even tens of miles were all that remained of planet Krypton and its moons. Kakashi stared at the planet. He knew it was a dead one, but it still looked unreal. How did rocks get in space? Naruto looked confused. They're called asteroids and are the residue from when planets were formed. Flash explained. Although some are the remains of planets. Naruto nodded. Thanks. No problem, bud. But why are they glowing? Gaara asked. Kryptonite. Superman's eyes narrowed. There's kryptonite on them. No wonder it's so common. Green Lantern exclaimed. There's a whole asteroid belt's worth of it. And I can bet that your high-speed exit from Krypton was enough to get some of them moving in the direction of Earth. Superman couldn't think of a proper response for the man. How hadn't he noticed this last time? If he had taken care of it, maybe not every villain, if any of them would be able to get their hands on the radioactive crystal. Maybe Lex would be normal by now. When civilizations as powerful as Krypton are wiped out in a single day, it makes you realize how fragile and insignificant our lives are. That no matter what great accomplishments one has in life, in front of nature we are nothing but specks of dust. Naruto said. Everyone nodded in agreement. In the end, achievements, titles and ranking were just worldly possessions. In the end, it was the same death that claimed the poor that claimed the rich. Their bodies decayed the same way and their works in life would be of no benefit to them in death. Naruto sighed. Connecting with nature had driven the point in for him even further. The world didn't mourn or celebrate anyone's passing, not even Jiraiya who had been the only sage for decades or Madara who had damaged the landscape for miles. It simply claimed their bodies. Nobody's death truly meant anything. Life goes on. It was also part of why he never killed people he didn't have to. In the eyes of the world, killing people was the same as sparing them. Both were equally inconsequential in the end. Wonder Woman felt something similar. She'd been exposed to the fragility of life early in her life and learned firsthand how easily it could be snuffed out permanently. Consequently, she developed a greater appreciation for life than most, only taking it when she had no other conceivable option. Her sisters considered her soft-hearted for it, but didn't dare say it to her face. She was still a fearsome warrior after all. His facial expression could not be seen because of the mask he was wearing, but his voice was subdued, melancholic. Have you been here before? I mean on Krypton. Superman, who had been silent until then, asked. Unless the other me wanted to scavenge something from the world, I doubt it. Naruto commented, having already gotten over the moment of sobriety. Yes, roughly 4 decades ago, to get my reward for completing a bounty. It wasn't long before it blew up now that I think of it. It came out as a shock for many beings in the entire galaxy when Krypton was destroyed. Oh, he did. Naruto blinked. He actually went to Krypton before it got destroyed? Flash looked surprised. No wonder he looks so sad. It's like going to a fun place a few years ago and then going back there years later only to find a demolished building where it used to be. That's surprisingly understandable. Green Lantern said. Hearing him speak about his homeworld, Superman was listening with rapt attention. You may or may not know this, but even today, dozens of years after Krypton's destruction, their technology and their relics still fetch a very high price on the legal and black markets alike. It goes to show how advanced they had been for their tech to have not become outdated even after all these years. Superman looked irritated at the reminder. He'd been attacked once in space by a group of pirates using Kryptonian technology they got off the black market. He's not wrong. Many people would still pay a fortune for anything Kryptonian, no matter how small or useless looking. Green Lantern said. We once busted a guy involved in an illegal trade ring specifically for Kryptonian technology. He had dozens of weapons and vehicle parts in his warehouse. We estimated the worth to be at least 100 million credits. In dollars, what would that be? Flash asked. Credits are the only universally accepted currency, and while they have the lowest exchange rate, I'd still say it would be about 400 to a billion in dollars. Well shit. Green Arrow whistled. He could afford Kryptonian technology then? Don't think about it, Robin Hood. Black Canary shut him down. You're a handful already without alien tech. Come on, babe. Think about it. Me with an S on my chest running through the rooftops. No, flying. Flying through the skies in my alien jetpack and my Gatling bow. Sounds like a nightmare. She chuckled. Let's leave the S business to Superman, yeah? It's not an S, it's my people's symbol for hope. Superman said. But hope starts with an H. Flash pointed out. Superman ignored the man and kept reading. Can't stop wondering though, how could a civilization as technologically advanced as them die out in such a dumb way? You'd think they should have easily managed to detect that something was wrong with the planet's core and at least escape, if not outright solve it. This whole situation smells fishy to me. And not just me, anyone with a working brain would think something else happened behind the scenes. It's true. Tsunade said. If they were as advanced as you say they were, how couldn't they tell their world was dying? Unless it was triggered by something or someone. Kakashi said. Or someone outright destroyed it. Gaara put in his own point. Superman clenched his fists at his words. You were right. Someone orchestrated everything. My father was one of the leading scientists on Krypton and he had warned everyone that the planet was going to explode, but nobody in the government wanted to believe him and the results of his research. Instead, they chose to listen to the corrupted AI that they had created, Brainiac. I don't see the point in trying to ignore something like that. Naruto shook his head. Even if it sounds absurd, it's better to look into it and be sure the man's just lying or crazy than just not believing. I agree. Martian Manhunter said. Investigation is more profitable than skepticism. They probably just didn't want to cause mass panic. Nothing drives people mad better than the knowledge that they are all going to die. Green Lantern said. Or they wanted to preserve their image and keep getting money. Batman joined in. Panicked masses can't work to gather revenue. The fact that they didn't flee before everything happened means you're both wrong. Tsunade said. Nobody believed the man, that's it. If they didn't want to cause a mass panic, they'd have taken steps to evacuate everyone quickly or prevent the disaster. And if they were after the money alone, they'd have fled before anything happened. Wonder Woman agreed with the woman. Man, it's Skynet all over again. Flash shook his head in an attempt to lighten the mood. Green Arrow snorted, getting the reference. Skynet? Naruto spoke slowly. Flash gave him a pitying look. You poor, unenlightened soul. But, by the time they finally realized that Brainiac had been lying to them all along, it was too late. As far as I know, besides the criminals trapped in the Phantom Zone, I'm the last Kryptonian. My father sent me on a rocket, as a baby, to Earth, minutes before the collapse. A short video is all I have left of my parents' memory. Naruto patted the somber man on the shoulder. Considering your parents saved your life rather than their own, I'd say they loved you very much and believed you would turn out better than they would if they had been in your place. Let that push you, Superman. Their memory shouldn't just be a source of sadness to you, Superman. It should also be a source of drive. Let their memories give you drive. Let the knowledge that they loved you enough to die in your place drive you to become what they believed you could be. What they died for so you could be. Become what they wanted you to be. Become more than that. Go beyond their expectations so that when you're able to meet them in the afterlife, you'll be able to face them with pride because you know they didn't die for nothing. Be that man, Superman. Honor them with your life so you can face them in death with your head held high. Thanks, Naruto. Superman gave him a small smile. It's all right. Besides, you may be the last Kryptonian, but you're not alone. You've got your team, your cousin and a bunch of other people I don't know. Naruto smiled. He had to admit, the man's parents sounded very nice to make a recording for him. Probably just so he wouldn't grow up without knowing who they were. He was sure his own would have done the same if they had the time, but they hadn't. All he had were the memories of meeting them in the seal and his father during the war. Diana stared at the boy. Normal people didn't end their speeches by talking about death and didn't start without offering their sympathies, but the boy did both. Encouraging words, they were. We'll be talking a lot more, Naruto. She thought. I want to know what would make you speak the way you did. Wow, you practice that speech in the mirror every morning? Green Lantern snickered. Knowing Naruto, it just came to his mind. Kakashi said. He's always been good at speeches. Good at speeches, huh? Green Arrow hummed. Hey Naruto, do you draw? You look like a blonde Guy Fawkes. Flash cut in. Don't get started on that. Think about it, Flash. He's good at speeches and he's been to prison. What exactly is going on? Tsunade asked Wonder Woman, who shrugged. I think they're talking about a dictator. I'm not too conversant with history myself. It's funny because we have a dictatorial rule too. Kakashi chuckled. And Naruto was once considered a candidate. See? Green Arrow said. I can't believe you. Flash shook his head. Naruto stared at the two, feeling lost. Due to his upbringing, Superman was a very kind and pure-hearted man. One that would not willingly hurt even a fly. However, if there was someone he wanted to destroy with every fiber of his being, that was Brainiac. Superman's eyes darkened. His encounters with Brainiac were few, but as much as he hated to admit it, he enjoyed it every time he got to tear the AI's vessel apart. The god of evil, Darkseid, was a close second too. Nevertheless, that was easier said than done. Sounds like one hell of a guy. Kakashi chuckled nervously. He'd lost his life fighting a self-proclaimed god, and here was a bona fide god who was so evil, he lorded over the very concept. He's a lot worse up close. Green Lantern shuddered. The god had broken almost all his bones and all he did was swat him like a fly. He didn't even look in his direction as he did it. We did tell you not to rush in. Batman said. Naruto, I'm hungry. Kyuubi said all of a sudden. The ninjas became attentive as the Kyuubi showed on the screen. Wonder Woman and Naruto smiled when they saw him. And just like that, the solemn mood from before was completely broken. Naruto's voice sounded helpless when he spoke next. Seriously, Kurama. The Kyuubi has a name? Kakashi looked surprised, as did Tsunade. Naruto felt thankful that Kurama wasn't awake. He'd be pissed that everyone got to find out his name so easily. To a degree, he was too. It took him battling his own self and engaging the tailed beast in a chakra tug-of-war before Kurama decided he was alright enough to know his name, but for the rest, all it took was reading a line on a book. Well, cat's out of the bag. He sighed. I wouldn't say it casually though. He's mellowed out a lot, but he won't think twice about biting your heads off if he hears you saying it. The Kyuubi has a name. Tsunade still couldn't believe it. What, did you think he was some mindless creature of destruction? Naruto frowned. He was actually pretty alright with people until Madara got to him and the first Hokage decided to capture him and the others instead of letting them roam free like they always had. Tsunade frowned at the memory of her grandfather. She had a lot of love for the man, but she had to admit that was perhaps his most foolish action in his lifetime. He'd introduced a new and devastating method of warfare in an asinine attempt at brokering peace. You ate 3 hours ago. Have some patience. You can see that there is nothing edible around. But then his words trailed off and he turned his head towards Superman. Superman sent a nervous glance at Naruto, who grinned toothily at him. Had his canines always looked that sharp? See, this is why you keep a weapon on you. Green Arrow chuckled. Keep them out of arm's range. I'm not talking about seat belts when I say that I'm strapped. Flash grinned. I'm not talking about the bike when I say I've got the chopper. Green Arrow followed. I call my gun the KKK because it hates me. Green Lantern got cut off by an alarmed Flash, who screamed. Black Canary rolled her eyes. Rap music. Ugh. Don't worry, Naruto isn't a cannibal. Kakashi assured the man. He might like to swallow live animals whole, but he's never eaten a person before. Everyone gave Naruto a strange look. The boy in question sighed. Damn it, Itachi. Coincidentally, Kyuubi also turned his head and licked his whiskers as he looked at Superman with a hungry look in his eyes. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. Superman stared at the book. I'm stuck on a ship with 2 potential cannibals. Kurama's not the same species as you, so he's not a cannibal. Naruto reasoned with him. That didn't comfort Superman. And you? Dart? I mean, you're not human. Oh my god. Superman looked horrified. I'm just joking. Naruto laughed. Well, his genetic code is different from humans, he's only human in appearance. Green Lantern pointed out. Okay, hear me out. Read, Superman. Batman sighed. A chill traveled down Superman's spine and he unconsciously stepped back, inwardly starting to become alarmed. Only 3 hours had passed since he left the Preserver's ship and he had been nowhere close to a yellow sun to recover his strength. Because of that, he was still severely weakened compared to his usual self. Your body's strange. Naruto said. Red suns weaken you, but yellow suns empower you? Superman nodded. Yes. It's because of the radiation. Naruto rubbed his chin. What would happen if you were under a blue sun then? He had been under a blue sun once. It had left him feeling as if he could take on all of Apocalypse on his own. It's like a yellow sun. But far, far more empowering. Naruto gave him an envious look. The best he could do with the sun was use it to heal and energize himself in Sage Mode, which was the closest thing to photosynthesis a human could achieve. As Superman was bracing himself for what could be a battle for his life, the fox started snickering like a hyena. I'm just kidding. Ha ha ha. After he stopped laughing, Kyuubi asked as though it just came to his mind. By the way, can you Kryptonians regrow your limbs if you were to lose an arm or a leg? I don't know and I'm not interested in finding out. Superman ignored the curious looks sent his way. You say it like they'd even be able to get past your skin. Green Lantern rolled his eyes. He's got tough skin? Naruto asked. Tough? Try impenetrable. Naruto whistled. You're really something, Superman. Hot eyes, impenetrable skin, flight, absorbing energy from the sun. Is there anything you can't do? It's not hot eyes. Superman ignored Flash's muttered pause. It's heat vision. I can fire out the solar energy in my body through my eyes in the form of beams. Do you think you can do it now? Naruto asked. Not at me, just fire a quick beam out into the distance. Superman shrugged and his eyes glowed red before 2 thin beams escaped his eyes and disappeared into the distance. Moen, that's hot as fuck. Naruto fanned himself. Do you really shoot that at people? Shit, I felt like I was standing next to a furnace. It's usually like that. Superman smiled sheepishly. Most people don't stand near me while I'm using it for the same reason. And no, I don't use it on people. At least not the ones who can't take it. I'd hate to meet the people who can. Naruto said. He was probably one of them, but he could tell the man had barely put anything into those beams. He wasn't sure he could survive a fully powered one. The real meaning was not lost to Superman. But, before he could reply, Naruto grabbed Kyuubi by the scruff of his neck and brought him down from his right shoulder in his lap. I can't believe you did that to the Kyuubi. Kakashi said. This was the same being that nearly reduced Konoha to rubble in one night? Stop teasing the poor boy, he said with a chuckle and, in the palm of his other hand, a glowing sphere of light blue energy took shape. Come, tell me what flavor you want this time. Batman's eyes narrowed at the screen. What's that? A glowing sphere. Naruto gave him a dull look. I think we're both seeing the same thing. It's clearly a power. Batman said. What does it do? It's obviously being used to feed a hungry animal, Batman. Flash said. I wouldn't say it's got any destructive properties if it's edible, even if it's just energy. Exactly. Naruto nodded. Like hell he was talking about the Rasengan. What was with the flavors though? At the sight of the Rasengan in Naruto's hand, Kyuubi's 9 fluffy tails started wagging excitedly. Naruto sighed. Rasengan? Batman asked. I'm guessing you know what it is then. It's a technique used to feed creatures capable of consuming energy as you can see. Kakashi jumped in and formed one in his hand, slightly amazing the people who watched energy swirl around rapidly enough to form a sphere. A basic technique for the event where you come across them. They're usually hostile but if you feed them, they'll leave you alone. That seemed to satisfy Batman who nodded, filing away the information, and looked at the screen again. Make it spicy. The fox said and gulped impatiently. He looked like a glutton. In the next moment, the light blue Rasengan turned red, transforming into a ball of fire. With no further ado, Kyuubi started to bite and lick at the sphere of fire chakra with gusto, as though it was a delicious ice cream. He'd make a killing in circuses. Green Arrow remarked. Wonder Woman looked annoyed by his comment. No creature like that would live out its days entertaining vile people who delighted in watching the torment of animals. Look at him, isn't he adorable? Naruto could. He is. Wonder Woman and Black Canary nodded. Naruto smiled at the former. I have a feeling Kurama's going to love you. He told her. A growl came from Kyuubi for being called adorable but his ire did not last long because he quickly lost himself in the sauce. He does look endearing when he's not threatening to eat my limbs whole. Superman said and the two men chuckled together. Yeah, he does. Superman had to admit. While they were laughing, an alarm rang and a notification appeared on the large screen of the computer in the control room of the ship. Below a red SOS signal, a small map of the RAW system appeared with a pulsating red dot at the very edge of it. Is there anyone alive? Superman asked, his voice betraying his hopes and expectations. Superman didn't let anyone speak and kept reading. He had to know what happened next. Naruto extinguished the orb of chakra in his hand but Kyuubi growled in unhappiness and bit on his fingers. I'm going to pull his ears so hard, they'll extend an extra inch. Naruto frowned. Biting the fingers that fed him, the lazy ingrate. Don't do that to him. Wonder Woman warned him. Why not? He's biting the fingers that fed him. Ah, you little shit, biting the hand that feeds you? See? Still, it was not the time to start a fight with the fox and instead turned his attention towards the screen. He changed the destination of the ship to the coordinates shown on the map. It's still amazing that you can easily triangulate locations like this. Kakashi remarked. Honestly, their world sounded a lot better than his if the issues were ignored. We don't even have any proper maps. Really? Flash asked. Why not? We used to be at war pretty much all the time. Kakashi explained. The only cartographers were scouts who examined villages from vantage points and mapped out everything they saw so as to analyze it for entry points. The official map of our village was inspired by an enemy cartographer we found and killed in the Third Great War. Damn. You've had 3 Great Wars? Green Lantern asked. The way the man said it, it sounded like a world war. Yep. The man nodded. We even had a 4th one about 2 years ago. Batman stared at the man. That we sounded a bit too personal for the man to mean soldiers in general. Don't get your hopes too high. For all we know, there is no landmass at the edge of the system, so far away from the star. Most likely it's a stranded ship requesting assistance. Naruto said. Ah, stranded scavengers. Green Lantern spoke. Gotta love them. But, to Superman's delight, the blonde's words were proven to be wrong a few minutes later when a rather small planet appeared in their view. It was grey, seemingly devoid of life, and enormous cracks littered the surface, cracks in the crust that were so large that they could be seen all the way from space. It was a dead planet. I'm guessing that's Argo? Kakashi asked. He said Argo was a city. Naruto corrected him. But they're headed towards a planet. I'll bet you 1,000 Ryo that the planet's name is Argo. I'll bet you 100,000 that it's not. Naruto smirked. Stop throwing money around so carelessly, Naruto. Tsunade frowned at him. Relax, Granny. I'm a billionaire. Flash sighed. It's like everyone gets billions except me. Kakashi looked curious. Jiraiya's inheritance? Coupled with my rewards for the war, the pay for the diplomatic missions and the new line of Icha Icha books. Naruto said. Do you really think I'd just sit still and go around doing whatever I want with my life just because I think I'll never run out of money? Batman and Green Arrow avoided gazes directed at them. Could anyone still be alive on a planet like this? After such a disaster? Naruto wondered. It doesn't even look like your ship's going to survive entering its atmosphere. Green Lantern remarked. Without a sun, it's going to be cold enough to freeze red-hot metal in seconds. Well, let's hope my other self can convince Superman of that. Naruto gave the man an annoyed look that he turned away from. We have to try. Even if the chance is minuscule, there's still a chance that there are survivors. There's no way I'm leaving without saving them. Superman insisted vehemently. Naruto didn't say anything. To be honest, he knew he'd do the same if he were in Superman's shoes. He had always wanted to one day come to the RAW system and look for survivors. He had always hoped that maybe, just maybe, one of the colonies of Kryptonians located outside of Krypton had managed to survive somehow. Superman knew they hadn't. The only Kryptonians other than Kara that he'd met were Zod and Fora, neither of which were peaceful people. The rest of the survivors, if there were any, were probably scattered across the universe. But whereas at first, he had not had the technology to do that, after he got the means to travel in space he no longer had the leisure to do so. For example, less than 3 months ago, Imperium and his race had also tried to conquer the Earth and kill every living being on it, just like they had done to Mars 1,000 Earth years ago. He was afraid of leaving the Earth unprotected for too long. Martian Manhunter didn't show any visible reaction other than clenching his fists. Superman gave him a worried glance. I am fine. He told the Kryptonian who hesitantly nodded. However, whether it was luck or fate, he was now in the RAW system. He would not miss the chance to save any survivors for anything in the world. When he heard his words, Naruto looked at him amused. What can you do about it if I decided to leave though? You may have special powers on Earth but, in this system, you're just an ordinary man. You don't even have a suit to survive the temperature on that frozen planet or the lack of oxygen. You've got to consider those factors, Superman. Green Lantern chided the man. No yellow sun, no ship, no special suit. You'll die the moment you enter the planet. Superman didn't respond. He knew the man was right, but he hated the idea of just potentially leaving Kara to die. Superman became silent. He realized his mistake. The masked person in front of him was not his subordinate to listen to his orders. Please, I need your help, he said and lowered his head. To his surprise, the blonde quickly agreed. Sure. I will help you. For 40 mass units of gold. Kakashi laughed. Nice one, Naruto. Naruto grinned. The other me sure knows his business. 40 mass units of gold. Green Lantern screeched. That's not business, that's robbery? How much is that? Superman asked faintly. It's about. Green Lantern's ring glowed brighter as it ran conversions. $4 million. Superman glared at the blonde boy who grinned sheepishly at him. Superman's head shot up, his eyes wide. What? Naruto chuckled at his reaction and the fox curled up in his lap chortled too. There is no free meal in this world, kid. You think people are going to work for you just because you said please? That's true. Kakashi said. Even if he's a good person, he's in no condition to help you out of the kindness of his heart. Why not? Superman asked him annoyedly. Because he still has to maintain his own lifestyle. Wonder Woman spoke. Fuel, food, repairs, maintenance. And he's a bounty hunter. Every second he spends with you is a second he could have spent chasing after a profitable bounty, perhaps even cashed it in already. You might very well be my dream woman at this rate. Naruto said, surprising the woman. You understand me so well. Batman tried not to glare at the boy. The Man of Steel looked as though he could still not fully grasp the current situation. I still can't. Superman shook his head. I just cannot. Dart? You want me to pay you in gold to save innocent people's lives? Naruto nodded. Naturally. It's just how our society is. Kakashi said. You need money to save lives? Superman asked him incredulously. No, we won't even know people need saving if you don't tell us, after paying of course. So you're all mercenaries? Batman asked the man. We're soldiers who do mercenary work for the village. Kakashi shrugged. It's like that for every village in the world. It's how the system is. Sounds weird. Flash admitted. Different cultures, different standards. Yours would be just as strange to us. Naruto said. And you also better not forget that I freed you from the preserver's cage and gave you a ride on my ship too, because that'll cost you another 30 mass units of gold. Normally, I should charge you for this detour trip to the RAW system as well, but I decided to do this one thing out of the kindness of my heart. Take it as a bonus, on the house. Superman made an incredulous face and Naruto almost started laughing out loud when he saw the small bulges in his cheeks, a sign of how hard he was clenching his teeth. I don't think I've ever seen you this angry before. Flash said to the Kryptonian. I think anyone would be angry when they're being extorted. Green Arrow said. Oi, oi. You're acting as if I'm robbing you now or something. I don't know what kind of environment you've grown up in, but normal people in this universe expect to be paid for their work. Of course, you can choose not to pay and I'll drop your sorry butt in space right now. Superman could no longer hold back his anger. I thought you were different. I was even feeling sorry for you. I thought that you were like me. But you're just a money grubber, not that different from a highway robber. Naruto frowned. Sorry for trying to earn a living. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Superman was quick to apologize. It's not me, Superman. It's fine. You're cool. Naruto stood up from the pilot's seat and the easy-going mood around him suddenly disappeared. I'll never get over how quickly he flips moods sometimes. Kakashi commented. I could have ignored and left you to rot in that glass cage and be on my way. I had no reason to take you on my ship and give you a ride to Earth because I have no business there. But I do try to help people in need if it's not too bothersome. Still, this is this and that is that. It's a good thing. Wonder Woman said. But gratitude won't keep him alive. I'm a mercenary, not a priest. I don't do charity. You think your words of gratitude will fill my stomach or buy new parts and cover the maintenance costs for my ship? Or maybe your gratitude will compensate me for potentially risking my life in an unknown place? Wake up to reality, boy. Naruto blinked. What was that last line? An uncomfortable silence for Superman was instilled after Naruto said those words. Now let's cut the crap. Are you going to pay, or not? Superman sighed in defeat. He understood that he could not force his lofty ideals on other living beings that were not even from Earth, much less on a mercenary. Superman also looked defeated. Furthermore, the man in front of him held all the cards at that moment. He and his beast were stronger than his current self and it was their ship too. Not to mention that, as Naruto said, in his current condition, Superman had no way of surviving on the surface of that dead planet alone. He did not have a suit to protect himself from Rayo's red radiation, or from the extremely cold temperature or from the lack of oxygen. If he wanted to save whoever had sent that distress signal, he depended on Naruto. Lastly, he also owed Naruto a debt of gratitude. I don't recall you asking Lobo for anything. The Kryptonian still grumbled unhappily. He owes me a favor. Naruto said. When cashed in on at the right time, it can either save my life or mean even more money. That's because Lobo had a modicum of common sense to acknowledge by himself the debt he owed me. And yes, just one promise of his is more than enough guarantee. He's been a bounty hunter for decades and never once went back on his word or broke a contract. He may be a piece of shit but he does have his own standards too. It doesn't matter if people don't like you so long as they respect you. Naruto said at the same time as Wonder Woman. Fine, you win. The Kryptonian said in exasperation and then muttered to himself, what do you even need gold for is beyond me. It's not about what I need it for, it's about what I want it for. Naruto snickered. Flash hung his head solemnly. Deep thoughts with the deep. I don't know what that is, but I like it. Naruto grinned at the man. Naruto sat back on the pilot's seat and steered the ship to enter the cracked planet's atmosphere. For transactions at an intergalactic level, what currency do you think that people use? With millions of planets and even more currencies, do you think money is of any use? Say you give me money from Earth, where am I going to use it? Naruto leaned forward. Economics was something Jiraiya had been surprisingly gung-ho about. The man kept track of exchange rates, price hikes and crashes of every item on markets and calculated the profits from the sales of his books himself. He'd gotten him hooked on it also, although he already had an edge in having had to learn to manage money in his earlier years so as not to spend the rest of the month penniless. Everyone else looked interested in the topic as well. From his words, Superman momentarily forgot how annoyed he was and became genuinely curious. He had never really asked himself that question before because he had never left the Earth until then for other reasons besides fighting against his enemies. You should try expanding your knowledge in other areas other than fighting, Superman. Naruto advised the man. A powerful fool will only be tricked and exploited. I'll keep that in mind. Superman said. He was a reporter and an accomplished one, but he had to admit he wasn't all that knowledgeable in many things. Growing up as a farmer's boy probably had something to do with it. Payments are made mostly with goods. Usually, it's stuff like advanced weaponry, spaceships, reactors or magical artifacts. But, depending on the planetary system and the position in the galaxy, gold, precious minerals, and other rare materials can be used as currency too. Hell, you can even pay with rare or powerful creatures or even slaves. Anything that the other party is interested in. Of course, money is used for transactions as well but only between planets belonging to the same intergalactic empire. Outside of those, money is worthless. So barter is still a thing in outer space? Kakashi mused. Interesting. Why would they accept stuff like gold though? Green Arrow asked. Just because we have no value for the beyond cosmetics doesn't mean others will as well, Arrow. Batman said. For them, it could be food, fuel, anything. What about credits? Flash asked. Didn't you say it was universally accepted? Yeah, you can exchange it for other currencies or in many places, simply use it to make purchases. Like normal money? Green Arrow asked. Not all currencies can be exchanged. Most aren't registered anywhere other than the main planet. Green Lantern said. You can't take Gordanian money to anywhere other than Kana. It's not even registered in most places, and if you took it to Thagna, you'd get arrested. Naruto explained all that patiently, with a very light voice. It was as if their small argument from a few moments ago had never happened in the first place. He did not seem affected by it. Apparently, it had not been the first time, by far, that someone had tried to slither their way out of paying him what they owed. That happens a lot. Kakashi chuckled. Most ended up paying anyway. The ones who tried using more violent methods to avoid paying didn't live long enough to regret their decision. So I'm asking you for gold in consideration of your origins. I can't expect someone from a backwater planet like the Earth to pay me with a planet destroyer cannon or a method box now, can I? He said with a chuckle. I know Earth isn't as advanced as many places, but come on, man. Flash groaned. Other me, Flash. Naruto said. I'd never offend you knowingly, we're bros now. Bros. Flash cheered. Naruto landed the ship on an open space. It looked like a large plaza of a city. A ruined city covered in ice. The entire planet was covered in snow and ice. A somber expression appeared on Superman's face when he looked at the scenery outside. Vaguely, he could recognize the architectural style of the buildings buried below the ice. Superman stopped reading to look at the screen. It didn't matter how many times he'd gone back to Krypton, the sight of the ruins still hit him hard. All right, I'm heading out. Naruto said with an energetic voice, not exactly fitting with the desolate scene in front of them. After all, they were basically in the middle of a giant graveyard. The burial ground of an entire civilization. We can't all be grim. Naruto smiled. Someone's got to lighten up the mood. Might as well be me. You almost always do it at the worst time. Kakashi pointed out. You were joking about how Lord Third didn't want to die, but the Shinigami was bigger than him. It was to make light of a bad situation. It was at his funeral. I had to cheer up Konohamaru. By making fun of his dead grandfather? He laughed, didn't he? Dart. Yeah, he did. Then I don't see anything wrong. Naruto folded his arms smugly. You've got a peculiar sense of humor. Wonder Woman remarked. Life's going to be bland if all we do is crack socially acceptable jokes that don't offend anyone, Wonder Woman. It's the offensive ones that are most funny. She couldn't argue with that. One of her favorite pastimes was going through memes. Before he opened the outside trapdoor of the spaceship, he said, Don't think about doing anything funny while I'm away. The moment anyone besides me tries to start the engines of the ship, this bracelet over here, he pointed at the white band around his wrist, will teleport me back to the ship. It's an anti-theft system implemented on all the military ships of Almerac. We really have to get closer to the Almerations. Green Lantern said. The technology those people were coming up with would be a huge boon to the Lanterns. Not gonna lie, it caught me off guard too when I stole this ship and, ahem. Anyway, I'm going. Be a good boy and stay put until I come back. Wait, you stole the ship? Superman asked loudly. I'm stowing away on a stolen ship? If we get caught, you'll be considered an accomplice. Naruto laughed. We're actually going to be no good criminals, just like you said. No. Superman was between laughing and crying, not really knowing how was he supposed to react. Indignant for being suspected of being a thief? Annoyed or amused at being treated like a naughty little kid? Or maybe worried that this guy stole a military ship from Almerac? He still remembered his encounter with the violent queen of Almerac. I've met many weirdos in my life, but this guy. I think he takes the cake. Phew, what a character. Superman muttered. I wouldn't say he takes the cake. I've met Mr. Mike Sliplicks. Superman rubbed his chin. But yeah, he's got his unique features. The masked blonde man may not be weird on the same level of weirdness as someone like Lobo, but he gave off a feeling of instability, making one feel on edge the whole time while interacting with him. Throughout the entire ride, Superman had been secretly anxious due to how whimsical Naruto seemed to be. You say it like I'm some kind of lunatic. Naruto frowned. No offense, Naruto. Superman said. Just because you say no offense doesn't mean I can't be offended. I'm offended. Was he a bad guy? Well, not really, because he saved Superman's and Lobo's lives. Was he a good guy? Well, he had just admitted that he robbed Almerac of one of their military ships, and he also demanded a crazy expensive fee for his services. That was not the behavior of a morally upstanding guy, but the behavior of a thief and an unscrupulous businessman. Superman couldn't get a proper read on his character. 70 mass units of gold, where the hell am I gonna get so much gold from? I'll have to ask Batman for help once again. I knew it. Batman sighed. That's going to be $4,050,000. Wow, Batman, you're rich. Naruto stared at the man. $4,050,000? I'd probably have a heart attack if I spent that much at once. Batman ignored Flash's laughter. He could already imagine Batman's patented glare boring a hole in his head or Flash making lame jokes and poking fun at him. He palmed his forehead when he felt the beginning of a headache. But then, another thing came to his mind. Wait, how much is a mass unit? It depends on the planet he's weighing it on. Green Lantern said. Some have greater gravities than others. If you're lucky, he's going to one with less gravity. Superman nodded resignedly. Batman would never let him live this down. Maybe he should listen to Lois and start accepting the offered rewards. That was not how they calculated the weight on Earth. Clearly, it was an alien measuring unit. Was one mass unit equal to a pound? If that was the case, then it was still okay. Somewhat. But what if one mass unit was equal to, say, God forbid, 1 ton? At that thought, Superman's face became ugly to look at. Ugh, what a scumbag. That's rude, Superman. Kakashi said. He's only trying to survive. I'm very sure 40 mass units is more than enough to survive on, but he lifted it to 70. Superman didn't let up. It's not his fault that you annoyed him into thinking 40 mass units are rookie numbers. Horizontal ellipsis. It did not take long for Naruto to find out where the distress signal had been sent from. With a sweep of his Sage Mode sensors, all life signatures in a radius of 50 miles were revealed. Naruto raised an eyebrow. All? On a dead planet? How did he even gather energy for Sage Mode on a dead world? A thought crossed his mind that filled him with excitement. Had his other self somehow managed to absorb and use energy from space itself? All of them, better said, would be that the only one. There was only one person still alive. As he walked through the ruins of the previously prosperous city, he let out a long sigh. Men, women, children, animals, vehicles, buildings, everything was buried into the eternal snow and ice. Naruto sighed, as did Superman. The latter because it was his world he was reading about, the former because he knew sensing corpses in Sage Mode wasn't a fun experience. Nevertheless, he did not dally and continued walking towards the location of the life signature. Soon, he reached the ruins of what had been a rather impressive building. Upon entering, he noticed that the temperature was a bit higher than outside. He followed the still relatively intact staircase and went down to the underground floors of the building. It made sense that if anyone was living in this building, they would be living underground rather than on the higher floors. I can only imagine how strong your buildings had to be to survive a cataclysm of this level and still not give in to the elements. Tsunade said admiringly. She doubted there would be any remains of Konoha whatsoever if they encountered the same situation as Krypton. Yeah, it's something, all right. Flash agreed. A few moments later, he reached a circular room that did not look too different from the control room of a spaceship. The moment he stepped in, a circle of light glowed on the floor and a rather blurry hologram appeared from the device in the middle of the room. It was the image of a tall but very beautiful blonde woman in her late 30s. She looked identical to a female human. Then, a sad but warm voice resounded in the cold room. The mood turned gloomy as they watched the hologram. Aunt Carla. Superman muttered sorrowfully. He had never gotten to meet her himself, but the memories of his father still stuck with him. Naruto quickly fiddled with the translating device at his belt to understand what she was saying. I am Carla Inze. Chief position of Argo City. 5 years ago Argo was a thriving, vibrant world. But then, without warning, 5 years ago, our sister planet, Krypton, was destroyed in a giant chain of explosions. Krypton's destruction tore Argo from its orbit. The room stayed silent as they listened to the woman talk. They knew what happened to Krypton, but hearing it from the mouth of someone who had experienced it was different. It looked like the transmission was recorded 5 years after Krypton's and Argo's destruction. As the blonde woman in the hologram spoke, one of the screens in the circular room started showing clips from when the planet was still in a pristine condition and then the following catastrophe. The resulting devastation destroyed most of our world and sent it moving slowly, inexorably away from our sun, leaving a few desperate survivors freezing to death. There was nothing my people could do but pray our distress signals would be answered. But now, I can wait no longer. I have taken a desperate last chance to save my surviving family. Superman hung his head. To my knowledge, we are all that is left of Argo. Please, help us. She said, tears streaming down her face. With that, the transmission ended and the hologram disappeared. Nobody spoke. Naruto stared at the screen, feeling numb all over. Superman had found his niece there, meaning nobody came to help them. They were all dead. Had this been what his clan had experienced too? Calling for allies that wouldn't arrive and praying for divine intervention while they were getting butchered? Superman tried to speak but choked. After a moment, he sniffled and blinked back tears. I'm going to keep reading. Naruto sighed apathetically. It was not that he was completely stone-hearted to their plight. He was just numb. Krypton and Argo were just two of the dozens of planets that had been destroyed during his lifetime. Probably even at that very moment, another planet exploded somewhere in the vast universe. Naruto didn't say anything. It was exactly as he thought. All was inconsequential in the end. Life went on. Going by his homeworld years, Naruto was 113 years old. He had traveled through the universe for 97 years. Even so, he showed no more signs of growing old at all after he reached the age of 25. For all he knew, he was immortal, never to die of old age. Even for you, that's awfully long-lived. Tsunade muttered, still not over what she'd seen. Yeah. Naruto admitted. He was sure he wouldn't even live to see 70, given how many times he'd used Kurama's chakra before they bonded. If he remembered correctly, using it ate away at his lifespan and he was sure he'd lost years if not up to a decade of his life. Traveling from one corner of the known universe to the other and witnessing all the death and destruction around him made him understand better than most people the frailty of life. And that, coupled with his apparent immortality, made him over the years slowly detach himself emotionally from his surroundings. Why love someone if they could get killed off just like that? Why make friends too, just so he could watch them grow old and die? Regardless, Naruto did not dwell on those depressing thoughts for long. His life was not all gloomy and dark. Because he had Kyuubi. Kurama. It seemed like the tailed beast was, in the end, the only thing he would have with him. Eternal life should not be a reason to close your heart, Naruto. Wonder Woman spoke quietly. They may grow old and die but we are able to immortalize them in our memories. But it'll only bring more grief. He argued. Perhaps, but it is that grief and the nostalgia that keeps you from falling into insanity or worse, apathy. It reminds you that you are still a person. When you fall into apathy, you no longer become immortal, you are simply an animated shell. Maybe, but in the end, he didn't have any of that to worry about. He knew now that even after Gaara and Kakashi and Tsunade and everyone else died, there would still be one friend who would be with him till the end of time. Kurama. He would never be alone. As though the fox knew his inner feelings, he moved closer on his right shoulder and snuggled into his neck. Naruto smiled behind his mask and brought his left hand to gently pat Kyuubi on the head. In this ever-changing world where planets and even entire star systems could unexpectedly perish in less than a day, there was one constant in his life, someone that would forever be at his side, Kurama. Through thick and thin, the two of them would always have each other's back. Naruto chuckled. Kurama wouldn't like to watch any of this. Walking towards the side of the room, he arrived in front of 4 life capsules. 3 of them had been invaded by ice and the people inside had become frozen corpses. But in the last capsule, a person still lived. A thin girl with shoulder-length blonde hair was sleeping peacefully. She looked no older than 16. She appeared to be the daughter of the woman in the hologram. Kara. Superman whispered. Naruto looked at him curiously. Your cousin's name is Kara? Yeah, she's alive here too. The man looked overjoyed. She's alive. It seemed his happiness was infectious because it seemed to lift the grayness that had covered them all. Even Naruto couldn't help but smile with him. She's beautiful. He muttered. Wonder Woman didn't know why she didn't like hearing him say that. Superman liked it even less. That's my cousin we're talking about, Naruto. I'm not interested in her, I'm just saying what I see. He raised his hands disarmingly. Looks like our trip here has not been in vain. Naruto said. MHM. And now, that big oaf won't bitch about the money he owes you either. Kyuubi grumbled, making Naruto laugh. Superman grumbled half-heartedly. He didn't appreciate being called an oaf, but he had to admit he did come off as somewhat of one in the beginning. A yellow-red light appeared around his hand, coating it up to the middle of his forearm. Kakashi's eyes widened. What was he doing? Batman noticed the man's alarm and looked at Naruto suspiciously. It was Yang Chakra, unmatched in vitality. It was a chakra born mainly from his body's physical energy. He ripped the capsule's door open and his chakra-coated hand immediately touched the girl's head. What are you doing? Superman's head shot towards a surprised Naruto with his eyes glowing bright red. Hey, I'm healing her. That seemed to calm the man down a bit. You're healing her? How? It's Yang Chakra. He explained. Physical energy. To create. If I'm using it on her, it means I'm healing her. Batman filed that away for later. Naruto also possessed the ability to heal through contact. The Yang Chakra engulfed her body and an expression of comfort appeared on the unconscious girl's face. Her pale white cheeks quickly became ruddy as her blood circulation increased and she even started to show signs of waking up. You really did heal her. Superman looked amazed. She got better in seconds than she did in days. Yeah, Yang Chakra does that. Naruto shrugged. If he still had the Sun Seal, he was sure the girl wouldn't have woken up that moment feeling as spry as she had been when she got in the pod. Thank you. Superman shook his hand rapidly. Thank you so much. Hey, it's fine. Naruto nodded. It really is. Other me, Superman, other me. He took the young girl in his arms in a princess carry and then the yellow-red chakra covered him and Kyuubi too. In the next moment, the three of them vanished from the underground room, leaving only a flicker of yellow-red light in their wake. Possible teleportation. Another thing to add to the list. Batman could feel Kakashi's eyes on him but chose to focus on Naruto. Superman closed the book. That's the end of the chapter. I think we've got a lot to talk about, so we'll gather again in an hour or two and continue. Batman, you're reading the next one. No. The Caped Crusader refused. Superman was about to speak when the book flew out of his hand and latched onto Batman's cape. The man glared at the shocked Man of Steel. Apparently, I don't have much of a choice. I can't believe you can actually heal people down to a cellular level just by touching them. Green Lantern shook his head slowly. I mean, I've seen things that heal better than that, but you just touch people and are healed? Bull. Shit. Naruto snorted. Lantern would probably have a mental breakdown if he met Karin. Believe it or not, it's not going to change what already is. I get that the power's yours, but you don't ever just look at yourself and wonder how is this possible? Naruto had to admit that he had done just that during the war but learned to just roll with everything that came his way no matter how random or absurd. It still felt unbelievable that his life had gone from training to fight a terrorist organization to fighting reanimated corpses to fighting against a terrorist backed up by the power of a primordial being who got betrayed by the relic of the past, who became the container of said primordial being and ended up turning into a goddess after a betrayal by his own subordinate that happened to be the creation of said goddess. And it all happened in nothing but a few days. That wasn't even counting that he actually died and met a supposed to be a fictional character who had actually been the one to give everyone chakra and seal the goddess, who happened to be his own mother, into the very same moon that was supposed to have been orbiting the world since the beginning of time. His mother, who if she had been a trained fighter or at the least a critical thinker, would have made quick work of him. Kaguya's act of sending him across dimensions had been what got him interested in the concept of dimension travel in the first place. I just don't care all that much. Naruto shrugged. I can keep people from dying on my watch, that's good enough for me. Have you ever thought of becoming a doctor? Flash asked Naruto, who was examining a construct of the Milky Way that Green Lantern made. With the ability to heal anything just by contact, you'd make a killing in the hospital. And have multiple government agencies looking to capture him for examination and cloning, but he was sure Naruto could take care of himself. I've never really thought of doing that. Naruto admitted. Being a medic's not really my thing. Are you sure? Doctors make good money, you know. Just diagnose a problem, heal it, get paid and move on to the next patient. I'm not sure he's particularly suited for the career. Kakashi chimed in. With Naruto's brand of humor, he'd probably leave them feeling worse than they were when they arrived. What do you mean by that? Naruto's eyes narrowed. I can be a doctor just fine. No you can't, you're more into fighting people than healing them. I'm a dynamic person. I change with the times. When we get back, I'll start healing people for money. Kakashi could only imagine how that would go. Naruto, clad in a lab coat, walked into the office where a woman and her daughter were waiting. So the test results came out. Naruto started. But before I say it, hey little girl, do you like to sing? The girl nodded. Where was he going with this? Nice, nice. Naruto smiled at her. Complete this for me. 30 days have September. The girl brightened up. April, June and November. You forgot one though. Naruto grinned. She frowned at him. Which one? You. Naruto burst into laughter. I've been waiting to do that to someone for so long now, high five. He raised his hand up at the glaring mother who had her wailing daughter in an embrace. After a few seconds, he put his hand down slowly. Maybe Kakashi was onto something about my timing. I can cure her by the way, don't want to listen? Well, come back soon. I'm the only one who can cure her, so it's best if you bring her back here. Well, not exactly your best option, more like your only option since I'm literally her only chance of survival. Anyways, come back if you want her to live. Before the end of the month, too. Or at least before next month. I can't bring back the dead. At least not dead cancer patients. Maybe I can, I've never tried to bring them back before. You know, your daughter's the first cancer patient I've ever had to heal. I should name this variant after her. Miyuki strain, nice. Your bill's 62,000 Ryo, but it's 662 if you bring her back for healing. But if she croaks before you bring her back, I know a guy who makes coffins for as cheap as 10,000 Ryo. If you want her cremated, I also know a guy who'll do it for a bottle of water. It's probably best to leave it to Sakura and Lady Tsunade. Kakashi ruffled Naruto's hair. You're too important to us to spend your days in a sterile building. Important? Flash asked. Kakashi perceived Batman's scent become bolder and sighed inwardly. Of course the man would be listening in. He's the reason we didn't go into famine after the war. His healing ability works with plants too. I wish we could have someone like you too, Naruto. Flash folded his arms. Well, we do, but she's an eco-terrorist who only raises forests filled with poisonous trees and carnivorous plants. I read somewhere that they absorb excess nitrogen out of the air. Naruto tried to reason. Maybe she's trying to help you out in that aspect. If there's anything that we need to be rid of, it's carbon. Green Lantern scoffed. Global warming's going to end us before Darkseid does. Naruto had no idea what that was, but it was dangerous. What exactly gives out this carbon? Kakashi asked. Carbon's a byproduct of combustion. Green Lantern said. Everything that burns releases it. Even people. Combustion happens when you breathe, you know. Your lungs burn when you breathe? Tsunade, who'd been listening to them, joined in. Either the man didn't know what he was talking about or his anatomy was different from theirs. It's not burning. Flash explained. Combustion is the breaking down of chemical bonds, heat's just a side effect of it. In the lungs, it's the heat and breaking down, but without the fire. It's why the air you breathe out is warmer than the one in the atmosphere. Your body's giving out excess heat as well as carbon. Tsunade hummed contemplatively. I'm guessing you're a doctor in your world? Hair, clothes. Flash chuckled. I'm in forensics. What's that? She asked. It's kind of hard to define. He closed his eyes in thought. But I think the best way to say it is that we're the guys who use science to investigate crimes. Run tests on whatever trace of DNA we can find, fingerprints, blood, stuff like that. I see. Kakashi made a mental note to try establishing something similar in Konoha. Anbu usually investigated crimes and they had the cryptology department, but the former weren't specialists and the latter specialized in decryption. Tsunade placed an arm over Flash's shoulder, causing the man to gulp when her breast pressed against him. Let's talk about your investigation methods. Green Lantern watched her leave with the man. Do you think she likes him? Kakashi snorted. The woman had turned down every single man who tried their luck with her, including Lord Jiraiya, who she'd known since they were genin. If you knew her, you wouldn't be asking that. Naruto looked amused. What do you mean? Green Lantern frowned. Naruto and Kakashi looked at each other and shook their heads. Don't worry about it. Naruto waved him off. So do you think there's any way to absorb and store the energy output caused by a supernova? Martian Manhunter understood that he wasn't a very approachable person. Even the superheroes that had tried to speak with him often had stopped, put off by his quiet demeanor, stony gaze and curt replies. Only a few like the Flash still insisted on trying to involve him in outings and the like, but since they had arrived here, the man, like Green Lantern, had been occupied by the one of the strangers, Naruto was his name, who was all too eager to learn about their world. He stared at the three men, wondering whether or not to try joining in their conversation. He doubted any of them would mind, but he had no idea what to say other than answers to whatever questions Naruto would ask him. The slight disturbance caused by someone sitting next to him made him turn to see the red-headed boy, Gaara, staring at the three also. He nodded at the boy who nodded back and was about to go back to watching the trip when the boy spoke. Naruto's an inquisitive person. He started. Always wanting to learn everything. The first time he came to my village, he wanted to know how we observed our hygiene in the absence of consistent water. That sounds mildly offensive. Martian Manhunter said tentatively. Gaara noticed that and shook his head. He didn't ask it to be condescending. He was just curious. He said. Temari hadn't been as understanding and gave the blonde an earful that day. I see. Martian Manhunter wasn't sure what to say. I'm sure he would appreciate it if you shared your knowledge with him as well. Gaara continued, and upon the Martian's questioning look, he explained. I saw you staring at them. You looked like you were wondering how to join in. I am content with where I am. I imagine you are. But there is no use in having an opportunity to be amongst people of differing backgrounds if you do not interact with them. Gaara said. You have made no attempts to speak with any of us either. The Martian blinked. You did not humor Batman with a conversation. Only Naruto would be able to tolerate the man's behavior. He is lucky he did not go to Lady Tsunade. She would not settle for simply ignoring him. Gaara looked at the blonde who was examining some construct Green Lantern created. You have a high opinion of him. Martian Manhunter observed. If you knew him like I do, you would as well. I see. The alien turned to look at Naruto, who tried to touch the glowing ring, causing Green Lantern to be enveloped in its light and float out of his reach. The feat only got an amazed look from the boy. His expression reminded him of his niece when she arrived on Earth. Everything about the world, even though primitive compared to Mars, awed her. I would like to talk with him. Gaara nodded and watched the Martian walk to Naruto, who started off by asking why he was green. He snickered. Just like with Suna. He noticed Black Canary and Green Arrow engrossed in whatever conversation they were having with each other. They probably felt out of place among everyone because even for lovers, they clung to each other too much. You encourage him to talk with others, but you don't do the same. Why? Wonder Woman spoke from behind him. He looked at her, noticing how her shield looked cleaner than it had been when she first arrived. She had probably occupied herself by polishing it. I have little to gain from any of you, he said. Wonder Woman raised an eyebrow. And we? Even less, but it doesn't stop us from trading words with you, does it? Gaara stared at the woman. I guess it doesn't. Thank you then. For what? You made yourself someone for me to talk to. Gaara shrugged. It's better than just sitting by your lonesome. Wonder Woman idly spun her shield, and as she admired how the light highlighted certain parts of it, her mind went back to the arenas of Themyscira. She'd been planning to pick up from where she left off with Naruto, but Flash and Green Lantern got to him before she did, leaving her with nothing to do but polish her shield and listen to Superman and Batman argue about something she couldn't be bothered to think about. I suppose you're right, he agreed. No wonder Naruto's interested in you. What? Wonder Woman blinked. Kakashi, who heard the little exchange, sighed. Naruto really needed a subtler wingman. Batman had Superman notify everyone that he was ready to start reading and took a seat in the center. He noticed out of the corner of his eye that Naruto and Wonder Woman sat beside each other and closed his eyes briefly. She had tried getting closer to him once, and he had to admit that he'd been harsh in his rejection, but he didn't like knowing that she was trying to or had moved on to someone else, even less when that person was currently the largest known threat of all the unknowns. Arrow, Canary, that's enough. He snapped at the two lovers. The next chapter is about to begin. Focus. Sheesh, bats, who pissed in your coffee? Green Arrow grumbled. He's not wrong, Arrow. Black Canary shrugged. We'll continue this later. Dart. Fine. The archer folded his arms. Quite the authoritarian, isn't he? Naruto whispered. Wonder Woman snorted next to him. He tries. She whispered back. In fact, he's a lot better than he used to be. He was worse than this? Naruto asked unbelievably. More than I can tell you. Wonder Woman smiled. The man was very used to being in charge, something gained from having two fresh proteges, and had tried to enforce his rules on them after assuming himself to be the leader due to being the one funding their operations and giving the orders most of the time. It had been her who reminded him that while they appreciated his help, they only obeyed him out of respect when she beat him to the ground and pushed his head into the dirt with her foot in front of everyone, only letting him up after he begged her. The man's resentment towards her had probably been one of the reasons why he rejected her, but she'd do it again if she had to. She didn't want to think of the kind of person he would be if he hadn't learned a lesson in humility. For all the good it did though. The man had gone from trying to control them to creating contingency plans to defeat them in case they went rogue. Only Superman still fully trusted the man after that got exposed. Batman, seeing that everyone save for Naruto and Wonder Woman had gone quiet, decided to ignore the two and read. The screen reappeared as he opened the book. Chapter 3, Meeting the Justice League. The what? Naruto laughed. What are they? The true enforcers of justice. Talk about a messiah complex. Kakashi scoffed, tucking his book away. The name didn't give him high hopes for this chapter. Wonder Woman frowned. While she didn't like their reaction, she had to admit that the name sounded like something an egotist or someone with a savior complex would think up. Maybe she should have protested against it more when they were still debating on what to name their group. I told you guys Super Friends was a better name. Flash muttered. I get the feeling it wouldn't inspire respect either. Green Arrow replied. It's better than them thinking we want to be benevolent gods. A blonde girl in her mid-teens was lying on her back on a bed with several wires connecting her to various medical machines. I thought Naruto healed her already. Superman looked worried. Batman looked like he got pinched in the side. He hoped his other self wouldn't have to suffer what he did. 4 million was already a hefty amount to lose without adding in the cost of equipment replacement along with the amount of other miscellaneous stuff he'd have to buy to cover up his main purchase. He may have healed her, but she's been frozen for years. Her organs would have to resume work properly, and when they do, she'll wake up naturally. Tsunade spoke. The machines are probably just to keep her from malnourishment in the period she's asleep for and kept track of her vitals. Superman nodded but wasn't comforted by the woman's words. A strange assortment of people was gathered around her bed, looking at her curiously. Superman in his red and blue costume, a green-skinned humanoid wearing a blue cape, another man in a bat-themed suit, a scantily clad athletic woman, a masked woman with angel-like wings, a Green Lantern wearing his core traditional uniform, and lastly, a man in a red suit and mask with a lightning motif on his chest. Wait, Naruto looked at Wonder Woman, then Superman, then Flash, and lastly, Martian Manhunter. You're the Justice League? Surprise. Flash chuckled weakly. So that's what the costumes are for. Kakashi smirked. You mustn't be the official enforcers of justice, so you hide your identities to escape identification by the actual ones. Well, Superman scratched his head. The man wasn't exactly wrong, but they also hid their identities for utilitarian purposes. We also do it so whatever problems we attract would remain ours alone and not involve our associates. So you do run around saving people and all that? Naruto blinked. Yeah. Do you get paid? We do it because it's the right thing, not for reward. Naruto nodded slowly. It explained why Superman in the book was so against paying him for his services. He was used to being around people who simply did good for the sake of it. They were all good people. Not very smart, but good people. That's nice, Tsunade started. But that's probably because you've all got something you're doing on the side. If you only had this hero life of yours, I doubt you'd be alright with just taking a thank you. I imagine it's a very time-consuming lifestyle. Kakashi pointed out. And since you still need to hide your identities, that means you have normal lives. How do you balance both? Flash looked deep in thought. It only just occurred to him that almost every member of the League was not only financially stable, but either had jobs that didn't require their constant presence or were their own bosses. Superman worked shifts, meaning he could go hours to days without being needed. Batman and Green Arrow were CEOs, Wonder Woman was an ambassador, Martian Manhunter had no normal life, Black Canary was a lawyer. He was in forensics meaning he only really had to work when there was a case, and Green Lantern was presumed dead on Earth, meaning he had no normal life either. But what of the ones that weren't in their shoes? The ones who, unlike them, had to work to make ends meet and still had to go out and risk their lives for indefinite periods of time? The ones who had to juggle two equally demanding lives, unable to fully dedicate to either? In the end, you have to choose one. Batman spoke. The point at which the choice has to be made arrives later for some than others, but it's inevitable. He'd made his own choice long ago. Bruce Wayne was nothing but a disguise now. And the ones who can't afford to choose? Or rather, can't afford to choose the path of the vigilante? Kakashi asked. Batman knew the others wouldn't like his answer, so he didn't respond. Kakashi stared at the man expressionlessly before turning his gaze away at the sight of Naruto shaking his head. What's with those gaudy costumes? Avoid, it's so cringe. I'm getting goosebumps. Naruto muttered and raised the sleeve of his right arm to show the fox on his shoulder proof of his words. Flash looked offended. Sorry, we didn't consider aesthetics when creating practical suits to fit our respective abilities. If you weren't considering aesthetics, you'd have simply created customizable uniforms. Kakashi pointed out. All of you are dressed uniquely, some of you even have insignias. You're all dressed differently too. I am wearing a uniform, Gaara's not from the same place as me and he's of a higher ranking, Lady Tsunade is retired and Naruto hasn't reached the rank where he'd be given the uniform. You're in the lower ranks? Wonder Woman asked Naruto, who sighed. It doesn't really matter considering I could wipe the floor with pretty much everyone higher than me. He said. In a friendly fight, of course. Nice save. Green Lantern smirked. It's understandable. Wonder Woman said. It took me many centuries before I could rise to where I currently am. Mostly because my mother insisted on me not being ready. Naruto nodded and froze when something she'd said finally registered. Centuries. Kyuubi snickered when he saw Naruto's hairs standing on his forearm and his skin looking like that of a chicken. While Naruto and Kyuubi were talking among themselves in their native language, the green-skinned man spoke. Her vitals are stable. The condition of her body is remarkably good. She's brimming with vitality. If you did not tell me that she had been in cryo-sleep for nearly 30 years I would not believe it. Now, we just have to wait for her to wake up naturally. Tsunade smirked. She loved it when she was right. You don't need to thank me, Naruto said complacently. I wouldn't mind a bonus to my paycheck though. Superman sent Naruto a weary look. You're already extorting me out of 4 million, what more do you want from me? He wants everything you have. Wonder Woman replied seriously. And if you can't pay, he'll take Gaara away. He can't do that. Superman said quickly. We'll stop him if he tries. Meaning he can sue you for even more money. Black Canary grinned. Not only did you renege on your agreement with him, you took away someone he rescued, meaning you kidnapped her, and last but not the least, you assaulted him. I see nothing less than 20 million in compensation for those charges, coupled with jail time if you're unlucky. Naruto bit his cheek to keep from laughing at the man's expression. The other 7 people in the room all looked at him, their faces displaying various emotions. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with wariness, while others with a helpless look on their faces. I think the only one helpless there is Batman. Tsunade folded her arms. He's the one who'll have to pay whatever amount Naruto's asking for. Batman paused to glare at Superman and Naruto, who pretended not to see him. When the Almeration ship appeared on the Watchtower's radar and Superman contacted the Martian Manhunter to give them access, upon getting down from the ship, nobody questioned Superman in regards to who the visitors at his side were, because they could see the unconscious girl in his arms and the urgent expression on his face. But now that things settled down, they naturally became curious. Anticipating their questions, Superman said, "We should let the girl rest in silence. We'll discuss more in the conference room." Let me get this straight, you took the javelin without telling anyone anything, went off chasing a crazy alien bounty hunter, got yourself captured and then ended up destroying the javelin in a brawl and came back with a debt of almost $4 million. Green Lantern, a middle-aged black man shouted at the top of his lungs, his voice betraying his disbelief. Why is the Green Lantern here dark-skinned? Naruto asked. I thought they were all just your alternate selves. Wait, I know that guy. Green Lantern racked his brain for a second. Oh yeah, he was one of the new set of recruits I saw before coming back to Earth. You think he just took your place in that universe and you're not a Lantern? Flash asked. Or he's my replacement. I could have just been assigned to another sector. Green Lantern frowned at the man. If he didn't become a Lantern in that world, it meant he was probably dead. Wait, you're going to leave Earth if you get assigned to another one? Like forever. Flash looked sad at the thought. I wouldn't really have a choice. I'm only here because they assigned me to this sector. Green Lantern shrugged. When he saw Flash's look, he quickly added. But even if I did, I'll still make time to come visit, it just won't be often. Flash nodded. He didn't want Lantern to leave, he was the only who hung out with him in the Watchtower. Given that Green Lanterns were the protectors of the universe, John Stewart was naturally aware of what a unit mass represented for aliens. One mass unit was equal to 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds. Converting 70 mass units of gold into US dollars, the final result was that Superman had a debt of over $4 million. Well shit. Green Arrow whistled. Over 4 million? You really got yourself into some serious stuff, Superman. Superman looked sheepish. I got it taken care of, I hope. You mean I got it taken care of? Batman looked annoyed. I'll pay you back, Batman. I own your workplace. You're literally going to be paying me with my own money. You bought his workplace? Naruto frowned. I don't think you value money much if you use it on stuff like that. Wonder Woman nodded in agreement. She'd seen the man blow millions to either prove a point or help someone out. He's not like that. Superman jumped into his friend's defense. He uses his money for good reasons too. He even helped me clear the bank debt on my house. Really? How'd he do that? By the bank. I can't believe it. Naruto shook his head. It's hypocritical of you seeing as how you were willing to throw away 100,000 Ryo on a bet. Kakashi pointed out. I'm collecting that by the way. The planet wasn't called Argo. Naruto rolled his eyes. I'm very sure it was implied. The chapter was titled Welcome to Argo. No it wasn't. But it involved going to Argo. And you went to a planet, which happened to be where Superman's cousin was. And he said he also rescued his cousin from Argo. I can't be the only one seeing a connection here. And I landed in a city. Naruto smirked. And Superman said Argo is a city. In Krypton. Kakashi sighed and fished out his wallet. Oh, I don't have 1,000 on me. Can you put it on my tab? Get your money up, not your funny up. Green Arrow laughed at the man. Oliver, you have absolutely nothing on you now. Black Canary whispered into the Archer's ear, silencing him. Holy moly. Flash gasped. Flash could understand how his other felt. There was something overwhelming about witnessing people talk about money that was more than you'd ever made in your entire life. Wonder Woman seemed not to be fully aware of just how huge that amount of money was. Although she had left the Paradise Island a bit more than 2 months ago, she had yet to truly interact with the society of the world of men. Hey, world of men? Naruto grinned at the Amazon. It's what it's called on Themyscira. She huffed. I know, but world of men? That sounds worse than it actually is. My sisters are not fond of men. Wonder Woman tried to play it down. They tried to kill us. Flash cried. And that was after we saved them from petrification. I didn't expect them to worship us, but a thank you would have been nice. Kakashi imagined an island filled with only women that looked like Wonder Woman and sighed wistfully. Lord Jiraiya would have gladly died to catch a glimpse of such a place. Batman was massaging both of his temples with his hands. If the Caped Crusader didn't have to hold the book, he was sure he'd be doing the same. In contrast, a certain Thanagarian woman could not help herself. Pooh. She tried to mask it by coughing in her hand, but when she took a look at the mixture of awkwardness and shame on Superman's face, all her restraint disappeared. Ahaha. She laughed out loud, beating the conference table with her palm. Wonder Woman soon joined her in laughter, as did Naruto and Flash. Superman buried his head in his hands. I kind of wish Hawkgirl was here now. Flash clutched his belly. Kakashi was just surprised there was a person with wings. She was hot, very much so, but he just couldn't bring himself to focus on anything other than her wings. See something you like, Hatache? Tsunade gave the man a teasing smile. I can't be the only one surprised that she has wings. Kakashi stared harder. Natural wings at that. Their whole race have wings. Green Lantern said. If you see a Thagnarian without wings, chances are they're lying to you or they got cut off. That sounds painful. Naruto winced. I'm sure it is. Gaara agreed with him. Hawkgirl. This is no laughing matter. Green Lantern barked. Tsunade raised an unimpressed eyebrow at the man on the screen. She's your teammate, not some brat to yell at, Lantern. Naruto shook his head. I'd probably laugh more just to spite him. It's not me. Green Lantern sighed. But yeah, Stuart was out of line with that. Knowing Hawkgirl's infamous temper, he'd be lucky if she didn't tear him down verbally. But Green Lantern's outrage only made her laugh harder. Guess you two are similar. Kakashi noted. He could tell the woman was angry, but she was only laughing to spite the man now. Dude, over 4 million. This is plain robbery. Flash said while looking at Naruto wide-eyed. Is it now? Is the life of the last Kryptonian and the last Argonian not worth that much? Kakashi chortled. The last Argonian. Pay up, Naruto. Naruto sighed. Allow me to enlighten you about other outcomes. Had I captured the two of them and sold them to the Saiyans, I reckon I'd have enough money to even buy a terraformed moon in the Vega system. A whole moon. You can buy moons in your world? Naruto blinked. Some terraformed moons have resorts or homes built on them. Green Lantern said, looking sour. But they cost more money than the net worth of some planets. And I'd get that much if I just sold them to the Saiyans. Don't say that like you regret saving me and my cousin. Superman cried frantically. I don't, but damn. That's billions, maybe even trillions, and I had to haggle 4 million with you. Other me should have charged 100 or 200 million. It's too late for that now. Superman looked smug. Take your 4 million and go, robber. That's how valuable the last survivors of these two races are. I'm actually suffering a huge loss by giving them away to you basically for free. I'm not sure how comfortable I feel to know he's just talking about giving me away like I'm a gift. It's business. Batman shrugged. You can't do business from a moral or humanitarian standpoint. True that. Green Arrow nodded. It was part of why he gave the business to a relative and simply collected his shares of the profits. He didn't have the heart to focus on profits alone rather than consider people. He couldn't even fire people without feeling like a piece of shit. A chill went down everyone's spine at those words. Superman himself appeared to be very perturbed. But even more unsettled by the revelation was Green Lantern. You would sell 2 innocent people to those monsters. Jon Stewart shouted. Do you know who those guys are? Flash asked. They're a race of maniacs from Vega System, a planetary system outside of the 3,600 sectors of the universe protected by the Green Lantern Corps. They have a hobby of dissecting and experimenting on people, trying to create new races and creatures. One of the worst tumors the world has ever seen. Green Lantern said with a dark expression on his face. Everyone who didn't know about the Saiyans looked revolted. Some of the superheroes sent the mute Naruto suspicious looks. Had they been wrong about his character? Superman shuddered. And Naruto would have sold him to those people and made him live his life out on an operating table? He'd rather kill himself than go through that. If the other me is anything like I am, he wouldn't give you 2 to them, no matter how much money they offered him. Naruto sounded troubled. It just wouldn't be worth the guilt that would follow. I can't condemn a person to that just for money. Kakuzu had been a lesson to him about what the love of money could do to a person. The man had dedicated his whole life to it. All his decisions were guided by money, from deciding who he fought to joining the Akatsuki. The man had met his end because his greed made him come back to rob Asuma's grave for his head. Just like they predicted he would. Wonder Woman patted him in the shoulder comfortingly. I haven't known you for long, but I believe at the very least that you're not that kind of person. You're better than that. Thanks. He gave the woman a small smile. It hurt him a bit to know that he'd never meet someone like her after this was over and they parted ways. He had to find a way to go to their world. He wouldn't be able to live happily if he failed to. Naruto made a pause. Of course that I wouldn't sell people as if they were livestock. Luckily for the big guy and that little girl, I do have some morals too, you know? Naruto let out a relieved breath. His other self was just threatening them. But if you try to double-cross me. None of the people in the conference room was deaf to the undisguised threat in his words. That's enough. You will have your gold in 24 hours. Batman, who had been silent until then, spoke. Why 24 hours? Kakashi asked. Gold isn't something you can take from the bank without getting questioned. I'd have to file a special request for it and pay extra to make sure it actually gets approved on the same day. Batman explained. After that, I'd need to arrange for its delivery to an inconspicuous location, after which I'll have it conveyed to where Naruto pick it up. He's lucky it's only going to take a day. Naruto smiled at the man. Doing that much work to get Superman out of trouble. You're actually a really good guy inside, aren't you? Batman didn't answer him. He knew deep in his core, he wasn't a good person. What about fuel for my ship? You can refuel here, at the watchtower. Aren't you worried about a fire? Kakashi asked them. What if something ignites all that fuel? The fueling area is at the outermost part of the watchtower. Superman said. In case of a fire, we'd open the door. What's opening a door going to do? Space is a vacuum. It'd drain the area of air, causing the fire to die out. It helps us conserve resources and reduces the risk of the fire spreading rapidly. Oh. Dart. And I thought that Flash was a glutton. Hawkgirl muttered while looking at the nine-tailed fox cub that was sitting on the table in the kitchen of the watchtower, gorging himself with food. Half of their food supply had already disappeared into the tiny being's seemingly bottomless stomach. I'm not a glutton. Flash huffed. Being a speedster doesn't just mean I run fast, it also speeds up my metabolism. My metabolism is too fast compared to normal people, so I need a lot of calories to sustain it. But I'm curious what this little fox's special power is. Flash said and raised his hand in an attempt to pet the fox. Don't do that. Naruto warned the man. But Flash cried out startled when one of the 9 tails of Kyuubi suddenly enlarged and slapped his hand away. Whoa. Flash jumped. That had to hurt. You're lucky he didn't try to bite your hand off. Naruto said. He doesn't like being played with? Wonder Woman asked. Kakashi chuckled. Naruto was the only one who tried to play with the mountain-sized creature rather than take off in the opposite direction. He'd probably be cool with you. Naruto told her. So long as you stroke his ego and don't treat him like a pet. I'll keep that in mind. Hey, that's not fair. Why can Wonder Woman touch it and I can't? Flash complained. Wonder Woman looked happy at finally being able to hold Kurama. See, I told you he'd like you. Naruto said. Flash grumbled. Wonder Woman was currently playing with one of Kyuubi's fluffy tails, showing a gentle expression that made a stark contrast with her normally stoic attitude as a warrior princess. Hawkgirl also tried to touch Kyuubi after Flash, but her hand was slapped away too. Now, she was sulking at his side. In fact, Wonder Woman was the only one Kyuubi allowed to get close to him. Okay, it's kind of weird now. Naruto rubbed his chin. You treat him like a pet and he just lets you? What the others did not think about and what Kyuubi did not know either was that, as someone carrying the name of the goddess of the hunt, wilderness, and wild animals, Wonder Woman had been blessed with an increased degree of affinity with wild animals and nature in general. Okay, that's neat. Naruto whistled. He only got an affinity for animals after learning senjutsu because they could sense the residue of nature energy on him, but it sounded like she had it to a greater degree. The Lion Whisperer. Flash said in a high pitch, causing Green Arrow to laugh. To Kyuubi, her presence did not feel threatening and he could also sense her emotions or, better said, the lack of her negative feelings. In addition, having the fur on his tails caressed so gently was a wonderful feeling too, something that Naruto never did. You should take care of Kurama's fur more, Naruto. Diana chided him. A creature like him deserves to be groomed to the best of your ability. Naruto rolled his eyes. The 90-year might have mellowed Kurama out, but the tail beast hated having his tails touched. The last time he tried it, Kurama booted him out of the seal and refused to talk to him for weeks. He doesn't like you. Plus, it's common sense you don't normally touch animals when they eat. Naruto said without looking up from the tablet in his hands. Who are you calling an animal, you stupid pig? Kyuubi suddenly growled and Flash, Hawkgirl and Wonder Woman backed away from the table startled. It'd be a shock, of course. Wonder Woman blinked when everyone looked surprised about her being surprised. Animals typically don't speak. Don't call Kurama an animal to his face either. Naruto advised. It talks. They unknowingly cried out at the same time. However, Kyuubi did not seem to care enough to press the issue. He was currently busy with chewing on an entire chicken, straight out of the freezer. With food in front of his face, it was like the outside world ceased to exist. Gluttonous fox. Superman grumbled. He wasn't over nearly getting eaten on the ship. Naruto found himself appreciating Kurama's laziness. He didn't want to think about how he'd deal with a gluttonous creature that could fit a dozen cows in its mouth. Naruto was also busy tinkering with the device in his hand. He was checking on the job offers that his information brokers and business partners had sent him over the past week. He had to go through several dozens of them. A mercenary's work is never done. Flash said with a deep voice before drowning. Ah drat, I should have said there's always more money to be made. He raised his voice. Everybody pretend I said there's always more money to be made. Isn't that what you said? Naruto asked. Flash grinned at him. Yeah, it is. The 3 members of the Justice League looked at each other in dismay. The Martian Manhunter had tasked them with babysitting the mercenary and his pet while he, Batman, Superman and Green Lantern were going to have a private conversation about how to deal with them until Batman managed to acquire the gold, 155 pounds of it. Batman sighed again. They're talking about us, Naruto, Kyuubi said after he finished the raw chicken and licked his whiskers. I know his ears are large, but damn. Green Lantern looked surprised. The walls and doors in the watchtower were deliberately made excessively thick to lower the chances of eavesdropping. The fact that the fox was still able to hear them was amazing. No surprise there, The blonde replied. What are they saying? They want to keep us here until we leave. According to that Green Lantern, it would be a disaster if they were to let us loose on Earth. Kyuubi said. We're mercenaries, not terrorists, Lantern. Naruto gave the man a pointed look. It's not even me. Green Lantern raised his hand. Wait, how can you hear them? They are on several floors away. Hawkgirl asked. Naruto grinned at Kyuubi's words, and although his face could not be seen due to the mask he was wearing, his voice was filled with mirth. I didn't really care about visiting the Earth again, but now that they want me to not go there, I will go. For the hell of it. Yeah, let's spite that black idiot. Naruto grinned. Damn, Naruto. If I didn't know better, I'd take your words the wrong way. Green Arrow snickered. What do you mean? The book described the lantern as black. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. Black Canary stopped Arrow from responding. Racism probably didn't exist in Naruto's world, and she'd be damned if Oliver was the one to introduce it, even if indirectly. Kyuubi revealed a toothy grin and he left the rest of the food on the table. With a small bend of his lower limbs, the fox leapt up like a spring from the table back to his favorite place, Naruto's right shoulder. I've got to know how it keeps doing that. Superman said. If you asked, he'd probably tell you. Naruto told the man. A moment later, without warning, several small marbles fell on the floor and a very intense light flashed, blinding the rest of the people in the room. A startled shout came from them at being temporarily blinded. They did not even know that Naruto and Kyuubi had already teleported away, straight back to their ship. The army won't have a fun time with this. An unidentified alien spaceship invading their airspace would ring almost all their alarms. Green Lantern said. It had been exactly like that for him when he'd returned to Earth as a lantern. You say it like he's going to the Straits. Flash said. How can you be sure about that? Flash, every alien lands in the Straits. True. The blast doors of the Watchtower's dry dock were shut, but Naruto was not worried about how to get out. At his age, after a lifetime of acting as an intergalactic mercenary, cautiousness had become his second nature. He was no longer like his teenager self who used to jump headfirst into situations without thinking. That said, he had made a habit out of leaving markers outside of the planets or spatial stations that he was going to land on, to give himself a way out in case things went south. Better safe than sorry. You can even leave markers in places you traveled to in the past so you wouldn't have to start mapping out new portal coordinates. Green Lantern rubbed his chin. They really had to meet with the Almerations. The warship that Naruto had stolen from Almerac was not large. Being designed mostly for scouting purposes, it was only 150 feet long and a bit less than 70 feet wide, having a sharp triangular shape. It had a highly advanced ion reactor, cloaking capabilities such as becoming invisible, and it was focused on speed. A scout ship. Green Lantern nodded. For someone who travels around a lot, it's perfect. While its camouflage, speed and mobility were excellent, the downsides of such a ship were its lack of firepower and the small capacity of its energy shield. But it fit his needs perfectly. His purpose had never been to go at war against fleets of warships, but to travel the universe. Naruto looked envious of his other self. He wanted to travel the universe too. Arriving in the control room of his ship, Naruto firmly placed one hand on the board and his other hand made a ram seal. A fantastic scene happened. In the next moment, the entire ship disappeared. A blink of an eye later, the ship appeared several hundred miles away from the Watchtower, next to another one of Earth's numerous artificial satellites. What the fuck? Green Arrow dropped the arrow he was playing with in his shock. I agree. This is shocking. Martian Manhunter spoke. That wasn't teleportation technology. Batman looked at Naruto. I don't think any technology needs you to make a prayer gesture with your hands. What was that? Your guess is as good as mine. Naruto stared at the screen. His other self had used the Hiraishin. An invisible spaceship entered the Earth's atmosphere, heading towards the dark side of the planet where it was night. Generally, the more advanced a civilization was, the more fantastic its night sky was too. It was a rough but not necessarily inaccurate way to gauge the progress of a backwater planet such as the Earth. And, naturally, he went towards the brightest agglomeration of man-made lights, the northeastern coast of the United States, since, at that moment, it was night on the American continent. I told you. America. Green Lantern pointed at the screen. Yeah. Flash waved him off. The ninjas stared at the screen intently, interested in seeing that Earth looked like. Dart. 1 hour later, Naruto and Kyuubi were in a late-night restaurant at the outskirts of Boston. They were the sole customers. At first, the clerk tried to stop him from entering with his fox pet, but a low-level illusion technique later he stopped all the ruckus. You can cast illusions? Wonder Woman stared at Naruto, her mind going back to Cersei. Yeah, I just don't need to use them often. He said. The sage's gift of perfect chakra control and universal chakra comprehension had given him the ability to use every ninja art that involved chakra, including Jinjutsu that had once been considered unlearnable for him. Illusion making. Batman filed that into Naruto's list of abilities. Now, Naruto was wolfing down one burger after another with an expression of content on his face. He was not as big a glutton as Kyuubi, but he did love food too. It was one of the finest pleasures in life. Naruto, Wonder Woman and Flash nodded. It's one of my goals to try every dish in the world. Wonder Woman said. Her interest mainly lay in ice cream, but Flash's food tour had mad. Naruto smiled at that. I traveled around the world to test every noodle dish in the different lands. You'll be surprised how many kinds of ramen there are. Kakashi sighed at that. He knew Naruto had been bullshitting him when he said the toads called him to noodle country. I just like to eat. Flash said, bringing out a flattened packet of chocolate. What's that? Naruto stared at the item in his hand. If there's a perfect food item from our world to introduce you to, it's chocolate. I'd bring soda too or ice cream. Wonder Woman brightened up. But our meeting happened on short notice. Ooh, here. Naruto took what looked like a stick out of his jacket. It's a snack in Demon Country. I don't know what its name is, but it's delicious. Careful though, it's spicy. Wonder Woman stared at them enviously as they exchanged the bars. She was surprised when they both broke them in half and offered them to her. Can't leave a fellow connoisseur out of this matter now, can we? Flash said with Naruto nodding in agreement. She grinned at them and they all bit into the bars at the same time. Can't believe how good this is. This also looks like a cheap restaurant. Who would have thought that Earth had such good food? Naruto said. Kyuubi made a hum of approval. Then, he lifted a bottle of Coca-Cola even larger than his own body and gulped it all down in one breath. He downed 3 liters in one go. Superman whispered. I can do that too. Flash said as he fanned his mouth. After that, a sonorous burping sound rang from his throat for almost 20 seconds. Man and Fox burst into obnoxious laughter. Fortunately, they were the only customers in the restaurant at that late night hour. So who's going to pay for all that food? I don't think Naruto has any dollars and space credits aren't valid on Earth. Green Lantern asked. Everyone turned to look at a resigned-looking Batman. Wish they had ramen. Come to think of it, very few planets I've been to had it. On some planets, they don't even eat food. Imagine a life where ramen doesn't exist. Why even live? Naruto nodded. He didn't eat ramen all the time anymore, but he couldn't imagine a life without the noodle dish. What do you think those planets used in place of wheat flour? Flash asked curiously. I'm not sure, but I know one that made instant noodles by crushing worms, seasoning the paste, shaping them into strips and patterns and baking them to hardness with a few agents to keep it from melting when it got cooked. Green Lantern closed his eyes. That sounds disgusting. Naruto looked green. For them, it's a delicacy. Even after 97 years of being away from his homeworld, Naruto's obsession with his favorite food had not disappeared. Though he had eaten many other dishes that were admittedly much tastier and richer in flavor than ramen, eating ramen always hit him differently from any other food. We all have that food. Flash said. Mine's pizza. With all kinds of topping. Even pineapple. Green Arrow asked. Except pineapple. It was because ramen also had a sentimental value to him in addition to its good taste. It reminded him of the first 2 people that had ever shown him kindness while almost everyone else in his village hated him, Ichiriku and his daughter, Aim. It reminded him of home. Naruto felt everyone's eyes on him but kept his eyes on the screen. Kakashi looked sad at the reminder of Naruto's early life. He knew he could have made things better for him. Lord Third would have probably allowed him to adopt the boy, but he never tried to. Tsunade knew what he was thinking and frowned. I've seen your files, Kakashi. You were in no state to raise a child. I know. He knew the woman was right but it didn't feel less like an excuse. He could have at least tried getting closer to the boy. It would have probably helped him a lot. Wonder Woman looked at Naruto. Why would the people hate you? I'll tell you later. He said simply. People just like having someone they can freely blame. After Kurama nearly lay waste to Konoha, the people were understandably grief-stricken. Naturally, they couldn't take it out on the tailed best, so the best option was to do so on the next best thing. The child that held him. He was sure if it weren't for the old man, people would do more than ignore him and curse at him. Superman could understand the boy's words. People often turned against him in the wake of destructive fights. Oi, waiter, bring me some more roasted chicken. And do it fast. Kyuubi yelled at the clerk but then yelped when Naruto grabbed one of his large ears. Don't be a prick, Kurama. Naruto said. It's bad enough that we're making them go against their policy and they'll probably get fired for it. Don't be an asshole, you could have at least say please. Naruto rebuked. Exactly. Kyuubi tried to bite him but Naruto let go before he had the chance. You cocky little shit, one of these days, I'll have to teach you to respect your elders, Kyuubi growled. Pipe down, twerp. Did you forget what happened the last time we brawled? Naruto said with a smirk, making the fox wince at the memory. Wonder Woman looked at Naruto disapprovingly. Why would you harm Kurama that badly? Are you kidding? Naruto scoffed. I won, but I was the one who looked like a walking bruise. So you lost in a fight with a bite-sized fox? Green Arrow chuckled. Remember when Kurama became as large as a horse? Yeah? He can become as large as a mountain if he wants to. That's what I thought. Oh. Green Arrow blinked. Naruto's words made more sense now. It's impressive that you even survived. Black Canary complimented him. Just then, none other than Batman and Wonder Woman appeared next to their table. It's Batman. Scatter. Flash faked panic. Batman rolled his eyes. Why did you run away from the watchtower? Batman said. But when they saw the food disappearing into Naruto's mouth despite wearing a mask that covered his entire face, Wonder Woman asked in curiosity. How are you doing that? Kakashi looked proud and Naruto grinned. Together, they both spoke at the same time. Magic? Would you believe me if I told you it's magic? Naruto said jokingly, but Batman did not seem to appreciate his sense of humor if the narrowing of his eyes was anything to go by. Anyway, how did you find us so fast? I thought you'd take a bit longer. I mean, I fried all the tracking devices you've planted on my ship. It's not as if I'm going to run around wreaking havoc, Batman. Naruto glared at the man. Most aliens who come to Earth deliberately do so with malicious intentions. It's better to be safe than sorry. It was Kyuubi that N-word. That woman planted a tiny tracking device on one of my tails. She thought I wouldn't notice. And he didn't attack you. Naruto couldn't believe it. He must really like you. I wouldn't do that to him. Wonder Woman quickly said. I actually like that other you did it. Naruto said, surprising her. You were right to be cautious. I'm just surprised that Kurama let you put a tracker on him. She smiled at him. If you knew what she was doing, why did you let her? Batman asked suspiciously. Wait, you knew? Naruto also asked. Well, someone had to pay the bill after our late-night dinner, the fox said with a shrewd look in his eyes. Green Lantern laughed. They tricked you into coming so you could foot the bill. It was not only Naruto that burst into laughter, but even Wonder Woman let out a soft giggle too. I liked hearing you laugh. Naruto blurted out. What? I said I liked hearing you laugh. It sounds nice. He repeated himself. Wonder Woman felt her face burn as she stared at him incredulously. Thanks. Subtle. Black Canary smirked. With how they'd been acting with each other, she'd be surprised if they didn't kiss before the book was over. While no outward sign of anger could be seen at Batman, Kyuubi knew how annoyed he was thanks to his negative emotions sensing. But Batman's ire became apparent when he had to pay a bill of several $1,000s. Kurama can sense emotions. Green Lantern blinked. That's bullshit. Only negative. Naruto said. Even that's bullshit. Can you think of how that is? No enemy would be able to hide from you. You would be able to tell from miles away regardless of if they were disguised or in hiding. Yeah, he's awesome that way. Naruto grinned. It was not having to pay a few $1,000s that triggered him, but the audacity of Naruto and Kyuubi to take advantage of the Justice League like that. First, by extorting Superman of a huge sum of money knowing that he could not refuse his services, and now making him pay for their food after they left the watchtower without their accord. It's funny that this would have been avoided if you just left him alone. Green Arrow said. And let a potential threat go around freely? I don't think so. And I didn't extort you. Naruto ignored the second part of the man's thoughts. It's not my fault that Superman can't afford the amount I asked for. You gave me that amount because you knew I wouldn't be able to say no. Superman sighed. No matter how you slice or dice it, it's extortion. Regardless, he calmed himself down. As irritating as the two of them were, according to Superman, they were not interested in living on Earth. So Batman consoled himself with the thought that this headache-inducing duo of aliens would disappear the next day after they got their gold. I can't wait for you to leave. Batman sent Naruto a pointed look. The other me or me? Naruto asked. Both. Why? I haven't been of any trouble, have I? You have? Oh no. Naruto feigned a sob. Anyways, keep reading. Batman closed the book. The chapter's over. Superman sighed. Finally. Let's take an hour or two and gather again. Who's reading next? The book flew out of Batman's hands towards Gaara, who caught it with his sand, surprising the ones who hadn't seen it before. It appears I've been chosen. Kakashi stated the obvious. He's the chosen one. Flash muttered in awe. Batman got chosen too, so there are two chosen ones. Green Arrow pointed out. There can only be one. He has the power. Green Arrow raised an arrow into the air. Naruto at least, got that and turned to Gaara. Quick, Gaara. Raise the book into the air and shout I have the power. Why would I do that? Gaara asked confusedly. Never mind. Naruto sighed. I don't know what to say, Naruto. Wonder Woman shook her head slowly. Naruto shrugged. It wasn't like whatever she said would change anything. He just finished telling her about Kurama's status, their relationship and what led to the tail beast getting sealed in him as well as the consequences of the sealing, and the woman looked a lot more distressed than he thought she would be. It doesn't really matter anymore. He shuffled a foot. It was a long time ago and I'm over it now. But to grow in an environment like that, Wonder Woman pressed. No child should have to endure such treatment. It's just wrong. Naruto stayed quiet. Well, I did. And as weird as it sounds, I'm a bit glad I didn't have a different life or even a happier one. Why? She looked surprised that he'd say that. Because it's being in that situation that made me the person I am today. That led me to meet the people I know today. He said. And I wouldn't change any of that for a better life. If he hadn't been an outcast among his peers, Iruka wouldn't have approached him out of pity. The sand invasion would have never happened if his father was alive, meaning he wouldn't have met Gaara who, up till now, was still the best friend he had next to Kurama. If he'd had a happy life and went on to become a ninja, the chances were that he'd grow up to be the typical Konoha nin. Powerful, but generic. And he hated that. Wonder Woman gave him a small smile. You turned out a lot better than most would in your situation. I like to think I did. Naruto smiled back. I imagine you are pleased that they've come to accept you now? She asked. I don't really care what they feel about me. Naruto shrugged again. I thought you were happy that they seemed to like you after you defeated Pain. Well, I did. But imagine it like this, a guy you've never seen before walks up to you and tells you that you're his personal hero. You'd like it, wouldn't you? But you wouldn't exactly be bursting with joy. But at the same time, if he said he hates you, you might ask why, you might just say okay, or you might even be mildly annoyed. But it won't send you flying into a rage or make you cry, would it? No, it wouldn't. Wonder Woman shook her head. He's not relevant enough to me for his opinions to affect me. Exactly. Naruto snapped his fingers. That's exactly how it is with me too. I don't care what they think of me because they just don't matter to me. He had to give the old man kudos though. He had tried everything he could to give him a reason to be loyal to Konoha. From painting the citizens who hated him as innocent people who were simply just victims of grief and ignorance to telling him that if he fought to protect them, not only would he prove to them that he wasn't what they thought he was, but he would also earn their love. And what greater protector was there than the Hokage? But to become Hokage, you first had to become a ninja. To anyone else, it would have probably worked. But for him, who already hated them all, it did the exact opposite. Why did he to amend for mistakes he didn't even make? Why did they all get to hate him and still be in the right while he struggled to make them forgive him for what he didn't even do? That wasn't fair at all. He had nothing to prove and nothing to be forgiven for. When he found out that he didn't really have much of a choice as to whether or not to become a ninja, he just stopped caring. Nothing he felt about them mattered just as nothing they felt about him mattered. Initially, he didn't even want to be a ninja. He wanted to leave Konoha and go traveling the world because not everyone in the world could hate him, and even after becoming one, he never told anyone. But it was still his end goal. I'm sorry, I assumed you still wanted them to love you. Wonder Woman said. I only fought for them because I had to and just because it was morally right, not because of love or loyalty. Naruto shook his head. And immediately after the war, I stopped really spending time in the village. I thought you had too. But I'm also the hero of the war, and I hate to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty much the most powerful person in my world right now, both politically and physically. Naruto grinned. My resignation is only for the sake of fulfilling all righteousness, because everyone knows that if I wanted, I could just leave and never come back and nothing would happen. Make it legal? I thought they wouldn't do anything. They can still mark me as a defector. Naruto said. It wouldn't really mean anything because, well, savior of the world, but I'd still be considered an outlaw even though nobody would try to take me in. Even Killer Bee was still considered a missing nin because he technically defected and nobody did anything about it even though everyone knew he was still alive. He wasn't even trying to hide. He still went around spreading his rap music while dodging Kumo nin. Ah. Wonder Woman nodded. So what do you do in your world aside from this hero business? Naruto asked. Wonder Woman thought for a moment before responding. I act as a curator of cultural anthropology and archaeology. What does any of that mean? Naruto looked lost. I'm a museum worker. Wonder Woman simplified, making a mental note to change what she called her job. Anyone would have to look up the meaning of the words to know she wasn't legitimate. What's a museum? You don't have that in your world? She looked surprised. Even Themyscira had a place where the possessions of the most valiant Amazons were stored and preserved so others would look at them for inspiration. Nope. What's that? Another thing only technologically advanced places have. No, it's a place where historical items are stored and displayed for public viewing. She said. Naruto imagined the sage's 5 tools being hung on a wall for everyone to see. He'd had to threaten to take them from Tenten by force before she agreed to stop putting them on display to attract customers. And nobody steals them to sell? He asked disbelievingly. Items that were probably worth a fortune were kept on display and nobody thought of stealing them? No way. The only historical items of real value in the elemental nations were weapons, and even they'd get stolen in less than a day after they were put on display. Measures are taken to prevent that. Wonder Woman said. Some people still manage to bypass them, but they are usually searched for. The ones that get caught are imprisoned and the ones who don't, well, that's that. So you still call yourself Wonder Woman when you're working? Naruto asked, trying to learn her real name. If people know you by that, wouldn't they easily connect the dots between you and your alter ego? You could have just asked, you know. Wonder Woman smiled knowingly. My name's Diana of Themyscira. But on Earth, I go by Diana Prince. Diana, Diana. Naruto repeated the name. I like it. Rolls off the tongue? Not quite, it's just fun to say. Diana, Diana-nan. What was that last one? Diana laughed. Don't worry about it, it's nothing important. My last name's Uzumaki. Naruto smiled at her. Nice. Diana raised an eyebrow. Well, I told you about my other job, so it's only fair you tell me about yours. Amazon and superhero by day, museum worker by night. Mine's bland compared to yours. If you were in my world, you'd know how untrue that is. Diana shook her head. Your lifestyle is something many people fantasize about. Especially the young ones. She blamed action movies for making life and death struggles look cool rather than frightening. Nicely choreographed, adrenaline-inducing fights, music to get viewers fired up, fitting lines, and the muscular main characters always look very fine even after taking injuries that would decommission a normal person. Something's wrong if people really think going out and risking death, dismemberment and capture for money you might not even live long enough to get is a good substitute for their normal lives. Naruto said. But yeah, I get it with the kids. Many of ours are like that too. At least until their first real mission. Most who joined to live out a fantasy, quit after realizing the real deal was hardly as tolerable as the tales people spun about ninjas. I blame television. Diana chuckled, getting a blank look from Naruto. Why are you blaming a television? He asked. Because of the violent movies. Diana trailed off when she saw Naruto's blank stare turn confused. Movies? What are those? You know what a television is but not a movie? Naruto rubbed his chin. He hadn't seen a television used anywhere other than the cryptology department and the Hokage's office, and both served the same purpose of receiving information, usually in code. Nothing more. No, I can't say I have. He shook his head finally. What exactly are they? Moving pictures. At least something of that sort. Diana said. She wasn't all that sure if it herself, but that was the definition she found on the internet when she searched for it once. It's usually done by recording actors and actresses and editing the footage. I know what that is. Naruto snapped his fingers. I saw something like that in production during a mission to another country with my team. I even showed up in the movie, right? Diana nodded. Yeah, I was in the movie. Koyuki had invited him to watch the premiere release of her recorded scenes and Team 7's fight with Dotto and his group, and the movie had been a lot more interesting to watch than it had been to see in production. They even managed to get an actor to reenact the train scene. It wasn't moving as fast as it had been with him, of course. Really? Were you acting? Diana asked. No, my team got hired to protect the main actress who turned out to be the next in line for the rulership of Snow Country. We had to fight her tyrant uncle and someone recorded it all somehow. That sounds like a foolish and dangerous thing to do, recording a fight that close to it. Diana frowned. Nothing happened to the guy. Naruto assured her. In fact, nobody even knew he was there. Now that I think of it, it's weird that none of us did. Diana blinked. Maybe the saying about the cameraman always surviving had some truth to it. So, what was the fight like? Naruto didn't really know how to respond. Seeing himself and the others fight felt strange, almost as if it hadn't actually been him. There was a sort of tension that had been in the actual fight that was absent throughout the movie. But he had mad moves. It was weird. I mostly just focused on Kakashi's stuff more. He lied. You should have seen him go. The man looked awesome when he destroyed an ice dragon with a Chidori. Kakashi's in your team? Diana asked. In it? Naruto grinned. He was our leader. Really? Diana looked at the silver-haired man who was somehow multitasking between reading a book, conversing with Superman and staring at black canaries behind. I can't imagine someone like him leading a team. He strikes me as a slothful man. He is, but he's someone you can always rely on to get shit done. Naruto nodded. And he's smart. Incredibly so. His only gripe with the man was that he never taught them unless it struck him that there was something they didn't know that they should. Having spent enough time with the man to know more about him than most, he could see why. Not only was he a genius who either learned most of what he knew without being taught or made them himself, he spent years leading Anbu operatives, highly skilled people who all worked together like a well-oiled machine even if they were completely unfamiliar with one another. Saddling someone like him who'd never had to learn or lead any other way with fresh genning was one of the old man's worst mistakes. Never judge a book by its cover, I see. Diana looked at Kakashi again. Yeah. He nodded. Naruto. The two turned to look at Gaara. Oh hey, Gaara. He asked the boy. I'd like to start reading now. Okay, I'll let everyone know. Gaara nodded and left the two alone again. I don't think you need to. Superman and Kakashi seemed to have already heard him. Diana pointed at the Kryptonian and silver-haired man who were already spreading the news. All right, then. Continue this later? He asked. Definitely. Horizontal ellipsis. Come to think of it, how did you learn to rap, Naruto? Flash asked when they were all gathered again. Naruto gave him a surprised look. What? I'm kind of curious about it too. Green Arrow agreed with the speedster. I thought music wasn't a big thing in your world, much less rap. Black Canary sighed. Her fan-made theme song was a nice number before people decided a drill beat and a rap about her violently beating criminals would make it even better. I know a guy who's really into it. He practically started the rap stuff in our world and it's booming now. Naruto said. You might not understand the lyrics but the beat and music are so catchy, most people probably don't even listen to them. Green Lantern grinned and materialized a three-piece suit and an axe. But they should. Because it's not just about the pleasures of conformity and the importance of trends, it's also a personal statement about the band itself. Hey, Paul. Ah. Flash screamed. Try getting a reservation at Doja now, you fucking stupid bastard. Green Arrow laughed. Lantern had even created the exact same speaker to blast out Huey Lewis and the news. Black Canary couldn't help her grin but Superman looked like he swallowed a lemon. He hated that movie so much but Lois couldn't get enough of it for some reason and forced him to watch it with her all the time. I don't get it. Naruto shook his head and looked at Diana who shrugged. Neither did she. If you're done, I'd like Gaara to start reading. Batman spoke out. Don't ruin a good moment, Batman. Kakashi wagged his finger before flipping to another page in his book. I would prefer if we left here as quickly as possible. Why? It's not like there's any time being spent. Gaara, please read. Tsunade rubbed her forehead. The screen appeared again as Gaara opened the book. Horizontal ellipsis. Chapter 4 Let it go. Let it go, let it go, can't hold it back anymore. Flash sang and stopped when he saw the look he got from everyone. What? It's a nice song. You're not such a bad guy after all, are you? Naruto said. You did pay for my food and gave me the gold I asked for. Naruto nodded. You mean the gold you extorted me and Superman out of? Batman corrected. It wasn't extortion. Naruto sighed. Extortion is how he makes a living, you can't blame him. Green Arrow smirked. Thank why wait what? What's that supposed to mean? Batman narrowed his eyes at him. Why are you offended? It's an obvious compliment. Flash looked at the man. He extorted me out of over 4 million in gold and made me pay for his food after causing a ruckus by leaving the watchtower unannounced and going to Earth. Batman said. I won't take anything he says without a grain of salt. You need to loosen up more, man. Green Arrow told the man. Not everyone has an ulterior motive for doing good, even if it's just a compliment. Instead of replying, the blonde man slurped loudly on a large number of noodles at the same time. It was Wonder Woman that answered his question. He means that behind your mean glare, there is a nice personality hidden. He actually is a real softie deep down. Black Canary snickered. Robin told me he buys tons of junk food, movies and video games to have themselves a guy's night every weekend. Or. Green Arrow cooed jokingly. That's so sweet. Batman grunted annoyedly. Damn it, Dick. When Naruto made a thumbs-up gesture at her showing that her words were spot on, Batman's glare intensified. I was only saying what I got, Batman. Wonder Woman frowned at the vigilante. He wasn't glaring at you, Wonder Woman. Kakashi pointed at the screen. True to his word, Batman's glare was focused solely on Naruto who continued to eat as if a man capable of inflicting so much fear, a yellow ring sought him out, wasn't glaring at him. Gotta give your other self props, Naruto. I'd have crumpled like wet toilet paper if the man looked at me like that. Flash admitted. He's a space mercenary and bounty hunter. He's probably experienced scarier stuff than being on the receiving end of Batman's glare. Green Lantern folded his arms. The man never succeeded at intimidating him for that reason. I'm not sure whether to be impressed or worried for his mental health. Tsunade frowned. Boffin. What? She looked at Green Arrow. It's an Earth thing. The man tried not to let his eyes go down to her bust. He'd looked at it many times now, but it still amazed him to see it. How could they grow so big? The four of them were currently in a Chinese restaurant in the Chinatown district of Boston. Batman had been the one to direct Naruto to that place after he asked if Earth had a dish known as ramen. That's a mistake. Kakashi gave the man a pitying glance. While Naruto was frugal with his spending, especially when it came to food, it was when he was treated to a meal that he let himself go nuts. Iruka stopped treating him to ramen after realizing how much money he was losing from doing so. What do you mean? Batman gave the man a suspicious look. He could see that Naruto's other self was a glutton, but he doubted the man's diet could put a dent in his wallet. He doesn't mean anything. Naruto glared at his former teacher. I want to say a big thank you to your other self for helping me out with my food. It means a lot to me and I'll be grateful to you forever. I don't see why you like the stuff so much. Superman muttered. He knew it was the boy's comfort food, but that was way too much. It doesn't even taste all that good. Oh, you take that back. Naruto spat with more venom than he knew he had. I won't. Superman said resolutely. It's too salty and isn't all that nutritious. Too salty? Flash asked. Wait, you haven't had any other kind of ramen after the salt ramen you had with me and Arrow at Central City? Superman looked shocked. You ordered salt ramen for me? Ramen flavored to taste like salt. You said you'd have whatever we were eating. Flash defended himself. It's not my fault that you couldn't read the menu. You should have told me. You didn't ask. We thought you knew what we were asking for. You two only told the waitress you were having the usual. Oh. Sorry. Flash rubbed his neck and his eye twitched when he heard Green Arrow snicker. If he was going down, he wasn't going down alone. But it's Arrow who makes the orders for us. I just eat whatever it is he orders because I don't understand the menu either and everything tastes good to me. He pointed at the shocked man. You snake. I knew you had low standards when you actually ate that shit. Diana had to admit, salt-flavored food sounded like a nightmare. She couldn't imagine eating something called salt ice cream or licking a salt popsicle. Thus, thanks to Batman, he was now in the middle of inhaling his 12th bowl of ramen. Batman didn't say anything. If the man was still eating that quickly even after that amount, it meant he was nowhere near full. At that rate, he'd be forced to use his card. Even Batman's poker face began to falter at the sight of the ever-increasing mountain of empty bowls stacked on the table. Yeah, that's why we don't buy food for you anymore. Kakashi told the blonde. It's not my fault that my metabolism's the way it is. Naruto frowned. Kakashi couldn't help but agree. The boy ate enough to either look like an Akimichi or Killer Bee if it all went to muscle building, but he never got any fatter. In contrast, the ever-gluttonous fox was not eating. Kyuubi was lying stretched on his back in Wonder Woman's lap, letting out quiet growls of content from the belly rubs she was giving him. Naruto shook his head. Diana might have been blessed, but Kurama would never let someone do this to him. Was it because she was a woman? If I didn't know what a Kyuubi was, I'd call it cute. Kakashi thought, morbidly amused. Konoha had nearly fallen and his teacher had lost his life at the hands of a natural disaster in the shape of a nine-tailed fox that practically melted from getting its belly rubbed. Finally, Naruto put down on the table the 12th empty bowl and exhaled loudly in bliss. I'm guessing a nap's next? Green Arrow asked Naruto, who raised an eyebrow. What? No. Who sleeps after eating anyways? That's asking for indigestion. It was just a joke. Green Arrow said unconvincingly. Nobody does that. Are you finally done eating? Batman asked. I hope so. Batman gave Naruto a pointed look. Though his facial expression could not be seen due to his face being covered by his mask, even while he had been eating, everyone could hear the reluctance in his voice when he spoke. I would like to eat more, but it's enough for now. I can sense there are only 2 employees working in the kitchen at this late hour. I've already troubled them enough by ordering 12 bowls of ramen at once. Understatement of the century. Flash said. You made them work past closing hours. I didn't know. Naruto looked guilty. He could imagine how it felt to look forward to going home, only to not just work overtime, but to do more work than you spent the whole day doing in one go. They probably won't get paid extra for it either since it's past closing hour. Green Arrow continued. And since they let the fox in, they were breaking company policy, meaning they'll probably get fired after all that. Don't be a dick. Black Canary slapped his arm. Don't worry, Naruto. Since it's past closing, Batman would pay them, not the company. Batman sighed. Batman and Wonder Woman looked at each other strangely. This guy was despicable enough to extort Superman of $4 million, but now he was worried about overworking 2 cooks at a restaurant? They did not know what to think of him. I didn't exto. We know, Naruto. Diana patted him on the shoulder. They're just joking with you. No, I'm not. Superman shut up at Diana's glare. We're just joking with you, Naruto. $4 million is the least we could give you for returning Superman to us. Flash gave the boy a thumbs up. We? Batman raised an eyebrow. The Justice League. Flash pointed at all its present members. Us. We paid him through you. Every superhero nodded in agreement, even Manhunter. Kakashi choked down a laugh. Right at that moment, an alarming news report came up on the TV installed above the counter. A dangerous hostage situation is developing at the Federal Building in Metropolis. Knowing my luck, it's ultra-humanite. Superman's amused face soured. What's that? Naruto asked. Never mind, I'll tell you later. Superman waved him off. So far, the ultra-humanite has refused to speak with negotiators. A freak of science, the ultra-humanite is reportedly a genius who is also extremely dangerous. Hey, you were right. Kakashi noticed. Yay. Green Lantern cheered sarcastically. Batman and Wonder Woman jumped up to their feet. But although the situation was urgent, Wonder Woman could not help being amused when she saw that the fox cub in her lap had not fallen off when she sat up. I'm beginning to think this is a running gag. Superman sighed. How does he keep doing that? He was still sitting perpendicularly on her lap as if he was glued to her thighs. Still, she could not afford to play around at that moment. She took the fox in her arms and handed him over to Naruto. If I could do that, I'd never take my head off your laps. Green Arrow told Black Canary, who looked annoyed by the thought. For some reason, I don't fancy the thought of having to carry the weight of a man who weighs as much as you with my legs alone. She said. No, I like you as you are, unable to stick your head to my laps. You could have just said no. He huffed. He wasn't heavy, it was all muscle. Do not fry this tracker if you want to get your gold tomorrow. Batman said and handed Naruto a bat-shaped tracking device. By the way, if you need any help, I'm here. We can discuss the price later, based on contribution. Naruto offered while taking back a grumpy and unwilling fox from Wonder Woman's hands. Nothing like an impending conflict to advertise your services. Kakashi sighed happily. War is a merchant's delight. Superman said grudgingly. He didn't appreciate Naruto trying to make money from a hostage situation, but he was coming to see things from the man's view. Wonder Woman sighed when Naruto took Kurama away from her hands. She'd have probably insisted on keeping him with her for longer, but she couldn't ignore the call of duty. No thank you, Batman said categorically. We can handle this. Green Arrow made a perfect impression of Morgan Freeman. They could not handle it. Wow, I didn't know you could do impressions. Flash was surprised. It's a side hobby. Then, turning towards the Amazon, he said. Wonder Woman, let's go. $100 says Naruto goes to help anyway. Flash said. Naruto looked unsure. He did say he has it in the bag, and I'm not getting paid. Naruto, we already know you would. Tsunade scoffed. But this is other me. He pointed out. The other Naruto's just you, but older. The hero complex is probably still there. Naruto huffed. He didn't have a hero complex, he just really liked saving people. Horizontal ellipsis. We don't need your help, he said. We can handle this, he said. Wahaha. Kyuubi laughed evilly from atop Naruto's shoulder. I'm guessing you got your asses handed to you. Flash said. It's kind of obvious, but why? Superman looked surprised. I fight Ultra Humanite so many times, it takes him getting some kind of never-seen-before upgrade to give me a hard time. Plot. Green Arrow said simply. What? Superman looked confused. Luckily, he and Naruto were conversing in their native language, because otherwise, Kyuubi would have gotten into real trouble for making fun of the current situation like that. Now that's just unfair. Flash said. They get to say whatever they want and nobody understands them. You have something similar. Green Lantern pointed out. I just talk faster than the human ear can process logically, that's not a language. If you recorded it and slowed it down a lot, you'd probably get me. So that time you were saying Askstbrun hu Uthsik to that pan helmet Flash, that wasn't gibberish? Green Arrow asked. What? Of course not. Flash looked offended. I have a PhD, I don't speak gibberish. In front of them, Batman was lying on his back on a bed in the watchtower unconscious, his body a sweaty mess. What happened to him? Diana asked worriedly. He got knocked out like a little bitch, that's what happened. Green Arrow muffled his voice with his hands, but it didn't escape Batman, who glared at him. Worldster. Superman cried out, getting surprised looks from Green Arrow and Flash. There were too many curse words and slurs in the parody, but it was funny. He's not wrong. Diana admitted. I don't like how I was portrayed though. You had no voice actress. What portrayal? Green Arrow asked. Answers in lack of voice actress. Diana's eyes widened when she realized what was happening. Curses at what took away her voice in lack of voice actress. Naruto fell over laughing. During the fight against the metahuman criminals hired by Lex Luthor, he had been bitten by Copperhead, who injected him with his venom. Batman had almost died. Oh, that's nasty. Green Arrow winced. He'd been bitten by Copperhead once as well. His heart gave out 5 times before he could get revived properly. Batman made a mental note to try extracting a sample of venom from Copperhead the next time they fought. He'd given himself a high level of resistance to Poison Ivy's pheromones and the Joker gas, but never really found anything for Copperhead's venom. If this had any relation to future events, he doubted he'd be as lucky as his other self to have others to take him to safety. Superman looked worried. If Batman died, what would happen to the League or worse, Gotham? Flash was just shocked. Batman, in spite of being just a normal man, was considered to be nearly as invincible as Superman. Always in control, always getting up. To see him reduced to such a state was jarring. The venom antidote is working, Martian Manhunter said in relief, and, not long after that, Batman regained his consciousness. Sleeping Beauty awakens. Green Lantern joked to lighten the mood. It worked. Batman glared at the man. Welcome back, Superman said. We were afraid we lost you. Luthor and the others, what happened? They got away. All but Copperhead. Martian Manhunter answered. That was good. Batman nodded. His other self would get that sample sooner than later. I'm heading down to Stricker's to interrogate him, Superman added. All right, let's go, Batman said and tried to sit up, but Superman stopped him. I get that you're a superhero and are expected to always get up, but you've got to know when to take it easy. Kakashi advised the man. No amount of willpower's going to save you from breaking down if you push yourself past your limit. Surpassing your limits usually means death, not a new state of power. Batman grunted. I have no limits. You couldn't even handle poison. Green Arrow deadpanned. I'm beginning to think you practiced those lines in the mirror. Venom. Tsunade corrected the man. What? Poisons from animals are venoms. Green Arrow rolled his eyes. What was it with people and wanting to flex their knowledge? Dinah did the same thing with him often. No, you're staying here. That venom almost killed you. So? Damn, you're a badass. Kakashi laughed mockingly. I think it's that he doesn't value his life. Gaara mused. At least not when it's compared to what he believes to be a greater cause. Batman nodded. Regardless, Batman, remember that you're of no use to anyone when you're dead or weakened. Gaara told the man. If you see the chance to recover to your peak, always take it. The enemy will not care if you're injured or convalescing. I'll keep that in mind. Batman said. Bullshit, you will. Green Lantern scowled. You say that to everyone who tells you the same thing but don't do so. Batman didn't respond. They wouldn't get why he did things the way he did. So you're staying here. I don't think I've ever heard Superman sound so insistent on something. Flash said. I can be stubborn when I have to be. Superman said. I just almost never have to be. Superman doesn't take no for an answer. Green Arrow snickered but stopped when nobody joined in. Superman fixed the Archer with a blank stare that made him squirm uncomfortably. Too rappy. Black Canary shook her head. Batman glared at him but did not continue to argue and sat back on the bed. However, after Superman left, Batman still did as he wanted. I swear with how you're acting, you'll be lucky to make it to 50. Naruto said. Naruto. Diana looked appalled. What, you think his body's getting stronger? No, your body never really recovers from anything. It's like breaking a bone. The first time's the hardest, but it'll be easier to break next time. Naruto argued with her. I'm not wishing him harm, I'm just pointing out a fact. If he never lets his body recover properly, he's just cutting his own lifespan shorter and shorter. It's true. Flash agreed with the blonde. Many athletes end up with weak hearts later in life because of their lifestyles. It's pretty much the same with being a vigilante. I understand that with Gotham, you can't afford to take breaks, but it's best to slow down once in a while or your body's going to do it for you, and it's going to do so at the worst possible time. Batman hummed thoughtfully. He didn't plan on being Batman forever, but he didn't want to suffer a heart attack one day all because he didn't watch his health carefully enough. Despite the words of consolation from the Martian, he went straight to the computer and tracked down the location of the Injustice gang through the tracking device that he had secretly planted on Lex Luthor. I know this must be hard for you, feeling vulnerable. You're the only one of us without special powers. But you don't need to prove yourself. You're a valued member of this team and we're only trying to. Batman hid his annoyance behind a blank expression. He hated when people thought he was only trying so hard because he wanted to keep up with the other members of the League. Superman started but got cut off by the vigilante. Don't, Superman. There's no need. Batman cut off Martian Manhunter's words midway. I'm taking the shuttle. Unless you want to try and stop me. The two looked at each other in the eyes for 2 very long seconds before the Martian Manhunter backed off. Martian Manhunter sighed. I can't keep him against his will. He's not a prisoner. It's fine. Flash smiled at the alien. He wouldn't be Batman if he didn't try to run off the moment he could walk. Horizontal ellipsis. On his way back to Earth, Batman also took the alien mercenary and his fox with him to hold his end of the bargain. Now, They were inside a warehouse in Gotham City. Let's go. Naruto yelled excitedly. Batman rolled his eyes. Here's your gold. You can check its weight yourself. Batman said and pointed at 2 wooden boxes on the ground. Even though I know what's in there could buy my house a dozen times, does anyone else think it's kind of underwhelming that they're just kept in wooden boxes? Flash asked. Gold is transported inconspicuously, unlike cash. Batman said. People tend not to feel curious when they see wooden boxes get loaded into a warehouse from a delivery van. Opening their lids, Naruto saw 35 gold bars in each box, every one of them weighing 1 kilogram. He nodded in acknowledgement and took out a scroll from one of the inner pockets of the fur-collared black cloak covering his body. What's a scroll going to do? Green Lantern raised an eyebrow. The real question is why he has a scroll. Isn't he from space? Green Arrow said. Naruto grinned inwardly, recognizing the seal work on the scroll. He spread the scroll open and placed it above the 2 boxes. After putting his hand on top of it, a small plume of smoke burst out and the 2 boxes filled with gold vanished. Green Arrow's jaw hung open as did most of the others. Batman raised an eyebrow at the sight. He had to admit, that was a nifty trick. Nifty trick, Batman said. It was almost a compliment. He naturally understood how many possibilities such a convenient ability could bring. Ah, neat. Green Lantern simply said. Neat? Neat. Green Arrow parroted. That's an RPG level hack right there and we're all just going to act like he didn't store over 1,000 pounds of gold in paper? Fucking paper. I can do the same with my ring. What's the issue here? Green Lantern asked. That's a lantern ring. It's one of the most technologically advanced items in the universe. This is a paper scroll with squiggly lines on it. Naruto frowned. They weren't squiggly lines. That is a very convenient ability to have. Wonder Woman complimented. Thanks. He grinned at her then looked at Green Arrow. Come on, I thought you'd have seen weirder stuff than that. What did you think the other me was going to do with thousands of pounds of gold? Carry them box by box to his ship? We have seen weirder stuff. Black Canary confirmed. But there are still things that can surprise us. Like Batman smiling. Yeah, that'd be the day. Flash scoffed. Come to think of it, why don't you smile, Bats? There's nothing to smile about. Batman responded. I swear he's practicing those lines. Green Arrow insisted. Gaara began to read before anyone could talk again. Thank you for the business, Naruto said professionally and then handed Batman a card. A business card? Batman asked, inwardly surprised. I extorted you out of $4 million, made you spend thousands on food for me and made fun of you when you were on death's door but I'm actually a very formal man. Superman mimicked Naruto's voice. Here's my card, we should do business again. When you say it like that, I'd be surprised if he doesn't trash it the moment I leave. Naruto admitted. And it's not extortion. I'm an independent mercenary. Since there's no agency or corporation behind me, I have to advertise my services myself. Anyway, you have urgent matters to deal with so I won't keep you. Take care. Naruto said and raised his hand for a handshake. A surprisingly pleasant exit. Martian Manhunter noted. Considering everything that has happened, I expected him to be a bit more chaotic. He's been very chaotic. Batman said. The only thing he fucked up is your wallet, Batman. Green Arrow said. Better that than Earth. Batman silenced the man with his worst glare. If he had known Oliver was actually the CEO of Queen Consolidated and not just the lost but found playboy turned vigilante, he'd have made the man finance the league in tandem with him when they just started. The 2 masked men shook hands and then Naruto and Kyuubi disappeared from the warehouse with a body flicker. When he could not feel the 2 aliens' presence any longer, Batman looked at the business card the blonde left behind. He's not trashing it. Naruto cheered. He's only looking at it. Flash reminded him. He might still do it later. Let him have this bit of happiness. Diana smirked. Naruto made fun of her voice so she'd have her own vengeance in seeing his hopes crushed. Looks like he's done other things too besides eating since yesterday until now, he muttered. Really? What did he do? Flash asked. I think he means out of Earth. Green Lantern corrected the speedster. It was a black-colored card and written on it were a few lines in red, and much to his surprise, they were written in English. On the front of the business card, it was written. Oh, it was on Earth. Green Lantern said. He just translated it to English. Look at the way the text and the body contrast each other perfectly. Green Arrow stared at the card intently. Flash caught on quickly. The way the light slightly reflects off it, almost like suede, black gold, the speedster continued. Smooth like ivory, the tasteful thickness. Oh my god, Black Canary couldn't help but join in as well. It even has a watermark. Bateman didn't say it like that. Green Lantern frowned. Well, Alan didn't have a black and red business card, did he? Touché. Intergalactic Mercenary, Uzumaki Naruto. Alias, Caterpillar. So that's why the story's called Caterpillar. Flash realized before looking at Naruto. Why do you call yourself Caterpillar? Naruto shrugged. It was strange to him too. Because he hopes to become a butterfly. Green Arrow laughed. Nobody joined him. Total missions taken, 3,381. Holy shit. Green Lantern whistled. That's almost as many missions as there are sectors. I haven't even been assigned that many missions. Kakashi was surprised as well. Not even Lord Jiraiya had undergone that many missions. Missions completed, 3,380, 99.6% completion rate. It seems to be a common thing with you Narutus. Kakashi smiled at his former student. He's got nearly a success rate of 100? Green Lantern asked, looking at the blonde. Not much harm in telling. Kakashi shrugged. He has a 94% success rate. Batman stared at Naruto. He knew the boy was a lot more dangerous than he looked, but he failed to judge just how much. Naruto stared at the screen. Method of contact, Lightwave XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Rescue. Assassination scumbags only. You should add extortion to your resume. Superman added jokingly, making Naruto sigh. Nice save. Green Arrow snickered at the last one. Scumbags only. Tsunade couldn't believe it. Assassination, Naruto? Really? I don't do them, Granny. Other me. Naruto lied smoothly. Kakashi waved his book, not wanting to talk. Naruto, surprisingly enough, had an aptitude for assassination, having murdered his own landlord to avoid paying rent. He had struck gold with his victim because the man had no known family, meaning the house became village property. Lord Third hadn't been pleased to know that his successor's son was more Anbu material than Hokage, but he discreetly tried to cultivate the boy's inherent skill. One of which was encouraging him via a reward in the form of ownership of the entire house. In the end, it was for nothing. He looked at Naruto again. He supposed it was to the blonde's credit that he didn't turn out the way the man wanted him to. Batman involuntarily let out a snort of amusement at the explanation written in the parentheses. Looking on the back of the card, there was a picture of a crimson-red nine-tailed demonic-looking fox. Weird alias. Batman inwardly thought. I agree with you. Naruto nodded. Of all the names, why Caterpillar? It was better than something like Angel of Death or Kitsune, but Caterpillar. Naruto was wearing a fox-themed mask. He had a nine-tailed fox cub as a pet and even his business card had the picture of a nine-tailed fox on it. One would think his alias would be related to foxes. Batman could not see how a name like Caterpillar related to foxes in any way. I think it's best if you don't think too much into it. Kakashi said. Sometimes, I doubt Naruto even understands himself. Hey. Anyone else think the picture looks like a mugshot? Green Arrow pointed out. Regardless, he did not ponder too much on it. He put the card in one of the many pockets of his utility belt and then headed towards the hideout of Lex Luthor's Injustice gang. He didn't throw it away. Naruto cheered again and jumped up for a victory dance. Diana looked annoyed. Yes, yes. Now sit down. Great Hera, he even had nice moves. Did only the bad people get good things? Horizontal ellipsis. An Elmeration ship exited Earth's atmosphere and headed towards the edge of the Sol system at a constant speed, in a straight line. There were only two people on board, a blonde-haired man and a red fox. The dynamic duo. Flash said. Batman frowned. He and Robin were the dynamic duo. So, what's the plan now? Kyuubi asked. Naruto was sitting on a chair, browsing through the rather lengthy list of jobs that various information brokers and other organizations that he was in partnership with had sent him. He had been at it for the past 2 hours. It was completely unlike him. Normally, he was a decisive man when it came to job-related things. 2 hours just job surfing? Flash asked. Picky much? Either they don't pay well, don't pay enough for the risk, or they're not the type I typically do. Naruto said. Naruto made a slow-moving waving motion with his hand in front of his face and the white Anbu-style fox mask started to disperse in a shower of particles of light. Flash of light? Green Lantern contemplated. Nanotechnology perhaps? If he got his hands on nanotechnology and still lugs weapons around, he's a retard. Green Arrow said. He'd seen nanotechnology in use before. There was a reason why it was globally sought after. The reason why he could even eat without taking his mask off was that the mask was not an actual, physical object but a jutsu that he had created, one that he could easily control at will. Jutsu? Batman asked. There are techniques to create objects? Not create objects. Naruto corrected. Create the illusion of an object. Jinjutsu. It was a jutsu that he created primarily not to disguise his identity, though it was good at it since not even Superman could see through it with his X-ray vision, but to solve the problem that poisonous gases and the lack of oxygen, which meant that he could now survive in hostile environments with no issues and even underwater. So you've got an all-purpose mask. Green Arrow looked at the blonde in slight envy. That mask would have saved him from getting gassed so many times. And I can't see through it? Superman asked, confused. Maybe it vibrates with a frequency your vision can't resonate with. Green Lantern theorized. I can make an all-purpose mask with a technique? Naruto looked confused. The closest thing to what was described that he could do was filter harmful gases near him with wind manipulation, but he couldn't do it through an object. Your other said he developed the technique, Naruto. Tsunade said. I don't think that falls under any known art. It was something that he had created out of necessity after going through countless dangerous places during his travels across the universe. Understandable. Green Lantern nodded. Is it really that bad out there? Green Arrow asked. There's a planet that rains diamonds. Green Lantern replied. Oh, nice. But the air's naturally occurring sulfuric acid. Oh, no. When the mask dispersed, the previously blue eyes became red and his sun-kissed blonde hair took on a darker tint too, becoming a strawberry blonde color, almost red. Naruto sighed enviously. He loved his hair, but he wished he had red hair or at least bits of it. As for his face, it had not changed too much since his teenager years. The more noticeable differences would be that the whisker-like marks on his cheeks had become darker and thicker and that, between his eyebrows, two rather deep frown wrinkles could be seen. He looked like a man in his mid-twenties. Diana stared between the two Narutos she could see. The one on the screen was admittedly very handsome, but for some reason, she preferred the one sitting next to her. Black Canary whistled. He's hot. Green Arrow frowned. Hey, I'm still here. She chuckled and caressed his beard. I know, I love you too. But I'm just admiring art, just like you were staring at Tsunade's boobs. His eyes widened. Shit. Tsunade, on the other hand, was staring at the screen. She stared hard at Naruto on the screen, then to Naruto with them presently, then back and forth again. Give Naruto a few years to grow older and maybe redder hair and he'd look exactly like he did on the screen. After all those decades, Naruto hadn't aged a day. She knew immortality meant eternal life, but eternal life and eternal youth weren't the same. You could spend eternity just growing older and weaker, or you could spend it as spry as you were millennia ago. Naruto seemed to fall under the latter. She looked back at Naruto who was saying something to Wonder Woman. His frequent use of the then corrosive Kyuubi's chakra had reduced his life expectancy greatly and he had dealt even more damage to his body with the creation of the Rasen Shuriken. As much as it pained her to admit it, she doubted he'd live to see 70 even if he wasn't killed at some point in his life. A bit of hope grew in her. What if he was like his other self and whatever would cause his immortality had yet to either get triggered or just hadn't been encountered yet? It didn't matter if she would never see him in the afterlife, just knowing he wasn't going to die an untimely death was enough to bring her joy. When the mask disappeared, Naruto rubbed his face with his palms and sighed. I don't know. I don't even know what job to take or if I should take any job at all. 4 million and all you had to do was bring a guy to Earth, eat food, get paid and leave. Flash chuckled. When you find a job that easy, everything else feels hard. That 4 million's going to be worth less in space. Green Lantern pointed out. He's far from set for life. But then again, no one really is out there. The reason why he had become a mercenary was that he had needed a way to finance his expeditions. Intergalactic travel was very expensive. The government spent millions to even leave Earth. Superman said. Imagine how much it would cost to travel around solar systems, galaxies. Ships capable of interstellar travel, their maintenance costs, the fuel, the weapons to equip on them, information, all these things were not cheap at all, regardless of the galaxy. Green Lantern nodded in agreement. It's even worse because they require very frequent maintenance. Not all planets have the fuel type of your ship, meaning if you didn't plan out your journey, you'd have to go searching around and hoping you don't get stranded in space. Sounds horrible. Superman frowned. He could fly in space, but he doubted he was fast enough to get to Earth in time from another system before he ran out of breath. No, their prices were exorbitant, hence also the reason why his services were rather expensive too. But now that he realized that finding a way back home was impossible, he was at a loss of what to do. What's the point of even doing anything if you'll never achieve the goal your whole life revolves around? Naruto frowned. Nobody knew what to say. Superman cleared his throat. I think the best thing to do at that point would be to find a new goal to work towards. Anything else and you'd just be living aimlessly. That's not life. Naruto smiled at the man. You're not wrong, but not everyone's strong enough to just accept that and switch goals. It's not a quarter as easy as it sounds. You've searched enough, Naruto. Almost a century is more than enough. Even if you went back now, what would you go back to? Everyone in your generation has long since passed away. You know as well as I do that shinobi don't live long lives. It's true, Naruto. Kakashi said. The world would have moved forward over the course of more than 90 years. Tsunade joined in. Even if you did find your way back, you'd be going to a strange world filled with strangers. A world that's moved past your time. In a way, that hurts more than not even having returned. Naruto stayed silent. Diana stared at him worriedly. She honestly had no idea what to say to him because she was in a situation similar, yet different. The first time she came to man's world, it had been with Steve, and even after they separated and she only spent what could have been a few years at best before returning, she realized that decades had passed and Steve himself had withered with age. The reason why none of it affected her was because it wasn't her world. She had not been born on Earth and didn't have any real attachment until joining the League. It didn't affect her much if the world moved forward by a million years in the time she was on Themyscira. But with Naruto, it was the other way round. She could only imagine going back to Themyscira and seeing strange Amazons and learning later on that everyone she knew was dead. She wouldn't be able to move on, that she knew. She'd be forever a relic of past times stuck in a world that had moved and refused to carry her with it. In her opinion, it would have been better if she didn't even go back at all. Naruto frowned at those words. It had become a habit for him, and that was the reason why the frown lines between his eyebrows were so pronounced. You really should frown less. Gaara told Naruto. It mares your face. But I don't frown much. Naruto said, appreciating Gaara's attempt to lighten the mood. Still. Alright. Don't tell me you've forgotten what happened 88 years ago, Kurama. It's the reason why I don't look a day over 25. For me, it was only 1 hour. But when I came out, almost 50 years had passed in the outside world. The ninjas froze in shock. Green Lantern and Diana looked more shocked than everyone else. They'd been in places where time dilations were greater than others, but not to such a degree. 1 hour couldn't mean half a century, it was too far apart. At those words, the hair all over Kyuubi's back and his 9 tails became straight like needles as a series of chills went down his back. At that time, Kyuubi had still been sealed inside Naruto as the two of them had not managed to find a way to let Kyuubi out without killing Naruto until he was in his late 40s. You actually figured it out without the key? Kakashi looked shocked. Naruto nodded. Without the risk of dying anymore, I managed to do it a lot quicker though. Why's it so shocking? It's the usual seal. That usual seal was placed on you by the god of death, Naruto. Kakashi stressed the word god. A god really did something to him? Green Arrow stared at Naruto. And he undid it? Batman stared at Naruto, feeling his suspicions rise again. What exactly made him attract a god's attention, much less one of death? However, through Naruto's eyes, he could see and experience the outside world, just like Naruto could. The sight he had seen that day would forever be ingrained in his brain. It was something that neither he nor Naruto would ever be able to forget. What did you see? Green Lantern asked, almost nervously. He wasn't sure if it was good or bad, but considering they weren't talking about it happily, it had to be something deeply horrifying. Naruto groaned annoyedly. It's the other me, Lantern. Let Gaara read. Nonetheless, Kyuubi did not want to back off. I know what hope you've been clinging on for the past century, time dilation. You've been hoping that while a century has passed here, maybe, just maybe, no more than a day had passed in the elemental nations. Tsunade sighed miserably, already knowing how this would go. But forget about a day, just think about 1 hour. No, even 5 minutes. Who could survive against the rabbit goddess after she kicked us out of the dimension? You think that Uchiha could? Or that useless woman you used to have a crush on? Or maybe your sensei? Hell, at that time, even you wouldn't have been able to last all alone against Kaguya for 5 minutes. Naruto couldn't swallow. He knew Kurama was right. Team 7 had never been as painfully outmatched as they had been against Kaguya. Not even when they fought Madara or Zabuza and Haku. It didn't mean he liked to be reminded of that. Especially when it was coming from a world where things clearly didn't end on a happier note than his had. Shut up. Naruto shouted incensed. The amount of chakra that his mere shout contained made the entire warship shake terribly. Diana's eyes widened at his outburst. That was a lot of energy. Kyuubi scoffed, not in the least intimidated. But he still chose to give up on his tiny fox cub form, and his body enlarged until he was several feet tall, making the control room barely accommodate his enormous size. His voice became even more powerful and demonic when he spoke next. Green Arrow chuckled nervously. Anyone else really feeling a bit afraid of those two? Flash raised his hand half-heartedly. You don't like to hear the truth, eh? Here. I'll spell it for you. Everyone is dead. You've been living with your mind stuck in the past for almost a century. Fighting for something that probably doesn't even exist anymore. Naruto's shoulders sagged as he stared at the floor. He knew nothing being said here meant anything in his world, but it didn't stop them from affecting him. This was what he could have become if things took a turn for the worse in the war. Some guy devoting his entire life to chasing shadows, giving himself false hope while ignoring the truth he told himself. It was funny, his main reason for wanting to go to other dimensions was because he knew he'd run out of places to travel to in his world. He'd fulfill his life's goal if that was done. And what would come after? It was all he'd really planned with his life. In a way, dimension traveling was his own method of running from the inevitable. Kakashi closed his eyes as he listened to the Kyuubi's words. He'd have rather it were said in a milder manner, but it was better this way. The truth was better delivered as quickly and bluntly as could be. Naruto wouldn't be able to do anything but accept it. No matter how much it hurt him to do so. When Kyuubi said those words, it was like Naruto had suddenly lost all his energy. He sat down on the pilot's chair and let his head fall against the steering wheel of the ship lifelessly. Oh, Naruto, Tsunade stared at the boy. She wanted to embrace him, but she knew it wasn't what he needed or wanted. It never was. Inwardly, Kyuubi felt his heart crack at that sight. He cared about Naruto like his own brother. They were family. Telling Naruto such harsh words hurt him too. Forgive me, Naruto, but it had to be done. You've spent a human's entire lifetime already on a wild goose chase. It's enough. I can't watch you waste your life like that any longer. It's time to let go. Kyuubi thought in his heart. Gaara agreed. Had he been in the Kyuubi's place, he'd have done the exact same thing. As Naruto's friend, he wouldn't stand and watch the boy waste his own life away. Black Canary watched the man go through the stages of grief with pity. She didn't want to imagine herself in his shoes. The two of them often argued and sometimes even brawled, but it was play fighting. It was very rare for them to have a serious fight. The number of times they fought ever since Kaguya had thrown them into another dimension could be counted on the fingers on one hand. And Naruto had always avoided speaking about how small were the chances of them ever going back home. He even avoided thinking about it. You were right, Kurama. I'm sorry. Naruto said. In the deafening silence that followed, the sound of his tears falling on the floor could be heard. They were bitter tears. Tears filled with the frustration and bitterness that he had bottled up inside of him over the past century. Naruto sighed numbly at the sight. Shit, he hated to see himself cry. All this time, he had pursued his goal with a tunnel vision, mindlessly. He had not allowed himself to cry, to doubt himself or to despair. But now, his path had finally reached a dead end. He had traveled to all the known planets inhabited by humanoid creatures, all across the 3,600 sectors of the universe. Green Lantern shook his head pityingly. Like he'd said earlier. If he hadn't gotten anything in all sectors and the Guardians, he was on a wild goose chase. He had met the oldest beings in the universe, the Guardians of the Universe, to ask for information, and he had even ventured to explore the unknown void of the universe, almost dying several times in the process. But it had all been for naught. He did not have any other leads. He had exhausted all his means. I was selfish. I'm sorry. I've only thought about myself. All these years, you've followed me and helped me without saying anything. And I never thought of what you might want to do. Naruto stared at his hands, feeling slightly happy that he and Kurama didn't have that issue. Did they? Did Kurama really agree with everything they did, or was he just rolling with it for the sake of his own happiness, or so he wouldn't have to fight with his only friend? What are you talking about, you bastard? Don't make this about me. Kyuubi shouted and grabbed Naruto by the collar of his cloak. This isn't about what I want. It's about. But Kyuubi choked on his words when Naruto brought his arms around him and hugged him tightly while crying in his chest. At that moment, Naruto looked nothing like a famous intergalactic mercenary. He did not look like someone who had fought on equal grounds against a god and lived to tell the tale. At that moment, he looked no different than a child crying in despair. Even for the superheroes who didn't know him for long, to see someone like Naruto, even if it was an alternate version of him, like this, made them uncomfortable. Diana rubbed Naruto's shoulder, noticing with some worry how stiff he'd gone. The now giant fox brought his tails around Naruto and gently laid his chin on top of his head. Naruto snorted sadly. Kurama had only done that for him once and sworn that would be the last time. Although seeing as how the war was never won in that world, it would be the first time he'd be doing it there. Apart from the Sage of Six Paths who had died more than 1,000 years before, Kyuubi had never cared about any of the humans or beings from the elemental nation. Kyuubi had never missed his home world. On the contrary, the past century spent traveling the universe, especially the last 60 years, ever since they found a way to unseal him from Naruto, had been the most fun and amazing period of his millennia-long life. I imagine it'd be. Naruto smiled slightly. Kurama was always the more adventurous of them both. Traveling to new worlds, exploring unknown lands, seeing all kinds of creatures, eating so many kinds of good food. It was a life better than he had ever hoped to have even in his wildest dreams. In the elemental nations, he had been nothing but a beast hunted by humans and imprisoned to be used as a weapon of war. He had no sweet memories of it. Naruto understood why. His siblings left him, admittedly due to his excessive pride, and he had spent the better part of the century in both his mother, the first Hokage's wife, and then, him. Twice he'd been enslaved. He'd been forced to spend years in a god's belly and nearly got reabsorbed back into the very same mindless destructive being from which he was created because of an insane relic of the past and a man whose version of peace was simply a world in which he was finally the winner of something. He may have his own attachments and reasons to want to go back, but for Kurama, there was no happiness to be had in the elemental nations. But he understood Naruto's feelings. He was a man loyal to his loved ones to a fault. And the fourth great ninja war happened only a few weeks after the village that used to hate him had finally acknowledged him. Naruto scoffed weakly. The old man's advice also worked for his other self. He had become a hero and it looked like his lifelong dream of becoming a Hokage was within an arm's reach, no longer something deemed as a pipe dream. People had started to respect him and love him. But his friends, his precious people, and everything he had worked so hard for had been taken away from him when he had been thrust into an unknown world. Superman grimaced. It almost sounded like something the Black Mercy would do to a person. A happy life, those things you secretly wished had been real, and when it was all close to its zenith, it all came crashing down. A world that he had roamed like a vagabond for almost a century. Kyuubi could understand his despair. So he let him cry. Despite the mucus and tears staining his beautiful fur, Kyuubi did not say a word of reproach. It's all right, Naruto, it's all right. Let it go. Gaara closed the book despondently. Nobody spoke for a while until Diana tapped Naruto's shoulder. Naruto? The chapter's over. Naruto nodded. Thanks, I'd like to be alone for a while. She nodded and got up as everyone else did. Naruto kept staring at his hands as he heard people behind to talk around him. Nobody tried to approach him, something he was grateful for. He didn't move from his position until a portal opened and dropped a blonde girl on the seat next to him, earning a surprised cry from Superman. Kara. Hello guys, if you enjoyed this part of the story, please like and subscribe to the channel, and with this sayonara.